Burlington will be holding the October
October 21st meeting of the planning board as a hybrid due to the expiration of the state of emergency that was issued due to the COVID-19 virus on March 12th, 2020.
Please note that the option for remote participation via WebEx is being provided as a courtesy to the public. This meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Those seeking to participate remotely may do so via the following: via the WebEx online conferencing software at townofburlington.webex.com. The meeting number is 2336-820-0132, and our meeting password is 1645. If you would like to dial into the meeting, you can on your phone at 617-315-0704. This meeting is also being broadcast on the BCAT government channel, which can be found on Comcast 99, RCN 15, and Verizon 41, and streamed on the Facebook Live via the BCAT Facebook page. Public make comments during the time for public comments. Questions can be asked via WebEx, the WebEx chat function, and Facebook Live chat function during the meeting. All persons wishing to ask a question or make a comment must identify themselves.
Thank you, Liz. If you're on the WebEx and you're not speaking, if you would kindly mute yourself, I'd appreciate it. We do have some items being continued on this week's agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take item 7E out of order for discussion purposes.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item E is an application for approval of a site in Cambridge Street. Federal Investment Trust is the applicant.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of November 4th, 2021, as requested by the applicant in an email dated October 21st, 2021.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to make a note for the audience. We do have O'Reilly Auto on the agenda, and we will be talking about facade landscaping later on in the agenda, but the site plan itself is continued.
Understood. Thank you.
Motion to take item 7I out of order for discussion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Item I is continued public hearing, application for site plan 15 Adams Street. Senate Construction is the applicant.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of November 4th, 2021, as requested by the applicant in an email dated October 13th, 2020.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Moving on to citizens' time. If any audience member in the hearing room, please come up to the table on your left. Identify yourself. For those participating, please raise your hand.
identify yourself.
Anyone?
Anybody?
Great. On to announcements.
Sure. So the Town Center Business Open House and Beer Garden will be happening on Saturday, October 23rd from 12 to 6. It's in the brand new Pocket Park, which is next to Sweet Ginger at 184 Cambridge Street. The rain date is next Sunday. So our Economic Development Officer, Melissa Tentopoulos, has been working really hard to start up, do some programming in our town center to bring more enliven it a little bit. And so this is the first kind of attempt at doing that. So hopefully it goes well so we can do another one in the springtime. So come on down. And then general and zoning bylaw warrant articles are due Tuesday, October 26th. That's next week. The ZBRC signage subcommittee will be on November 1st at 5:30. The Burlington 128 Public Forum will be taking place on Tuesday, November 2nd at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And this is working with Mass Development to look at the kind of Mall Road, 128, Middlesex Turnpike corridor for kind of a visioning. And so they're having a public forum on November 2nd. So come and participate. But that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The initial discussions on that 128 public forum have been quite interesting, and I'm really excited to see kind of what the next steps are. So if anyone is involved, I highly recommend attending. Do any members have any additional announcements?
Please, thank you. The Sculpture Park Committee is hosting a public event on Saturday, November 6th at the park from 10 a.m. to 12. We're calling it Performing Art in the Park. We're going to have a duo of these two guys who do acrobatics and juggling with fire. And also the Burlington High School Chorus and Band will be performing, and possibly the orchestra as well. That's not sure.
And I'm sorry, when is that?
November 6th, which is a Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Sculpture Park. So everybody come.
Great, thank you. We do not have any legal notices. Moving on, item A is an application for endorsement of a plan to leave not to require approval. 0 Scott Avenue, Murray Hills Incorporated is the applicant. Good evening.
Evening.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Yes,
Thank you.
Phyllis Edsel, and I'm here representing Murray Hills with an application for an approval not required to create 3 lots on Scott Avenue. One of the lots will be non-buildable. Lot 1 has 90 feet of frontage on Scott Avenue and contains 1,027 square feet. And Lot 2 157.49 linear feet on Scott Avenue and contains 23,062 square feet of land.
One second. Made ourselves.
So
Phyllis, can you clarify that that's the upland there? It's all upland?
No, I believe on Lot 1, it is all upland. I think on Lot 2, down in the rear corner abutting the land, the non-buildable lot, that there is a small piece of wetland. And we compensated for that by increasing the lot area to 23,062 square feet, which I believe will more than cover whatever we find down there.
Does anyone have any questions?
Question for the applicant. This is, Phyllis, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the wooded area on the left-hand side of
Yes, yes.
Scott Ave, extremely narrow street. Is there any, do you have any plans to do anything?
No, not at this time.
Just wondering. I mean, obviously it meets the
Yeah,
requirements.
the trees and the bushes have overgrown quite a bit too, so I don't know what it will look like when it's cut back. It may be better.
Just a quick question. So that lot 3, that's a non-buildable lot.
Yes.
I know you said it consists to have some wetlands on there, but is there any uplands on there? Is there any ability to accommodate parking for any of the businesses around in that
I
area?
doubt it. I think he would like to use it as a buffer between the residential house that he'll build and the commercial.
Okay.
And I don't believe he needs the parking.
Well, my only thought was that, a lot of the houses, the streets around here, we're finding that people in the morning, people are parking. There's not a lot of parking in those buildings up front there. So if this lot were available to be able to accommodate something that, maybe, it could be used in conjunction with some of those front buildings or, because I'm sure he doesn't, at this point, he's creating a lot that he doesn't really want, or probably that it doesn't have much use for it,
No,
and that town were able to maybe get some property in there or something, and just create some parking for some of the buildings. It might alleviate some of the, the thing with those, and it's not obviously Bob's problem, but some of those buildings in the front where that, where that paint wallpaper,
you're talking,
parking over there, and,
I know.
maybe they could use some of that for some of the employees that, would park back there and leave their cars, and then, who knows, that front spot, we'd like to be able to create instead of parking, because it's a horrible in and out. When you have to back out onto 3A to end up accessing 3A again.
Yeah.
But, so I'm wondering at some point in time, we could bring those in front and then create some parking behind that would accommodate something,
It might be that they could talk with Bob about it. We have a large parking lot there now, and it isn't always full. He may be willing to talk with one of the property owners about it if they called him.
Right. Phil, does he keep, like, that lot, I know you want to leave it as a buffer, I mean, would he be willing to turn, if maybe the town had a use for it, would he be able to turn that
I don't know.
willing on possibly, like I said, discuss it maybe, or,
We'd have to talk with him, and he's usually willing to discuss anything, but we'd have to ask him.
okay.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I have just a comment. So an approval not required plan is if you meet the required frontage, it meets the definition of approval not required. The one thing we do want to just ensure, and it sounds like the analysis has been done, but prior to any issuance of a building permit, to clarify that both lots are the 20,000 square feet of upland, as well as meet the lot slope requirement of square footage before a building permit would be issued. And we just add to the condition that to clarify those two items prior to the issuance of a building permit. But otherwise, it meets the 100 feet of frontage. It qualifies for action. So we don't have any issue on the action. It's just want to make sure that there's other zoning compliance that's just clarified before it moves too far. But I don't generally have issues, just to clarify this.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything?
So by acting on it, just speeds the process up.
By acting on it, it says that you approve it under subdivision control law. That doesn't mean it meets zoning compliance. And what we're saying is in the condition of you approving it, sure they meet zoning compliance. Sometimes when you approve A&Rs, it's, oh, well, the planning board approved it, we can go. Just make sure that step is taken, then they can go.
Because we had approved one in the past to get language onto it, and that language never actually,
That language was on the plan. And
it was on there, but it never actually. So we actually took affirmative action on it in order to accomplish something that never got accomplished, but
yeah, what I would say that, when I just whispered to Liz, that you have it in the back room to sign. What we can do is hold the sign stand just to make sure that's recorded, that gets filed at their registry.
Right.
And if there's an issue and they need to move the lot line, they'll be right back. So, but
Anyone in the audience?
Madam Chairperson, Brett Goldman. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I appreciate you recognizing me. My name is Richard O'Neill. I'm an owner of the lot at 3 Kinney Avenue, which is directly abutting first of the lots that we're talking about. My parents moved into this property in 1952, and I have owned the property since 1894, and have changed my residence from Tewksbury to Burlington, and therefore can tell you that I live there. What's not seen here is that this is a parcel of land that is a culmination of some 30 years worth of effort. And 30 years worth of effort that I'm talking about, and I mentioned this to Phyllis as well, is how the applicant here worked with me and all of the residents on Kinney Ave to unravel a major problem with the zoning on that street from Cambridge up to Taylor. And it took someone with a metal detector finding a pin 3 feet down by Santoro's by accident, believe it or not. And the applicant that we're dealing with here said, you know something? I knew, my uncle told me that I should never give away that 25 feet of land because we don't know where it came from. So this isn't a situation where somebody's running around with a gun to their head. We're saying to you, look, we're bobbing and weaving. It's really something that is just really straightforward. You've got 2 units, 2 lots, with the third end of the lot that's sitting there. My understanding is that under the proposal that's being requested and adopted, we have to deal with frontage, period. And then dealing with what the planner talked about in terms of little side things that have to be taken care of. I would strongly recommend that you endorse what is being recommended to you and move on. There is a sort of sexy little look at the end of the 3 units where it says vacant. I need to tell you that that is not a quiet little point. Why? Because when you have massive trucking facilities up there, flipping down Murray Ave, that's a 15-foot paved way. Oh, no. That shouldn't be there. But it should be there for different reasons. And I would suggest to you that we'll have an opportunity perhaps later in the year to talk about that. But at least in terms of leave it alone. There are other issues in there that need to be massaged and worked. Okay. That's it.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you for coming.
Good to see you, Pat.
But then you're back in town.
Well,
It's about time.
I might have to get on the good side, right? All right. So that's my, thank you for taking me.
Thank you.
I can just get, I lied, I told him I wouldn't say. Mike O'Neill, also like Kinney Avenue 3. You know, what Rick said about the house and all, it's fine. My only thing is the comment was made with making that buffer, that lot 3.
Right here.
Into possible uses, and that lot saves the neighborhood from all the views in the parking lot. That's really all I want to say.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to offer commentary or have any questions? You have a motion.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve and sign an approval not required plan entitled Scott Avenue in Burlington, Middlesex County, Massachusetts. Approval not required plan of land prepared by Commonwealth Engineering dated October 6, 2021, reflecting a change in the boundary lines between assessors parcels 17-121-0, 17-120-0, 17-119-0, and 17-118-0. To allow for the creation of 2 buildable lots. Planning Board finds that this is a proper submission of an approval not required plan as the 100 feet frontage requirement has been met. The applicant shall submit 4 copies and an electronic PDF of the endorsed approval not required plan to the Planning Board office within 4 weeks of this approval. Proof of recording with the Registry of Deeds shall be provided to the Planning Department upon completion.
Second.
And add comments as amended.
As amended.
Yeah. 20,000 of London's lots.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening.
Thank you. I have a question. What does the as amended mean?
Just to So prior to the building permit, just clarifying that both lots are the 20K of upland and the lot slope requirements met, which, yep, it sounds like you've done that. It's just clarifying.
No problem.
Thank you. Moving on to matters of appointment. Item A is a public hearing, application for approved site plan, 600 Summit Drive, Jones Lang LaSalle is the applicant. Good evening.
Evening. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. My name is Neil Foley. I'm with Jones Lang LaSalle, and we're requesting your review and approval of our proposed exterior chemical storage container at 600 Summit Drive. Those familiar with the campus, great, thank you. It is when you drive up from Middlesex Turnpike and you come around 200 Summit Drive, you continue to the Millipore building. There are two buildings. The first you encounter is number 400. The one to the right is number 600, built a couple of years after number 4. We are proposing to put this purpose-built chemical storage container on the exterior site, some 40 yards from the building, and close to a curb cut where Clean Harbors Environmental Company currently picks up the same waste from within the building. The reason for constructing this is to facilitate the process to safely handle this material in one location rather than multiple locations in the existing building, and to have it ready for when Harbors picks it up. I have other team members that can address specific questions. Mark Gifford, with the hands crossed, is the client from Millipore Sigma. Bill Marr is with the gentleman with the glasses and tie is our civil engineer with Niche Engineering. And online, our architect is Dan Herzig from Canon Design. And our contractor is Devin Gleason and Steve Wassersup from Timberline Construction. So we could field questions. Oh, excuse me, I didn't mention the most important one, pardon me, Mark, is Bobby Young, who is our environmental health and safety manager at Millipore Sigma. So in terms of the process and, the cause for this, I would ask Bobby to address that. And I also want to note that he is meeting with Christine Mathis on, I think, the 13th of next month. He's already submitted the manifest of the material that is processed in the building over the last 2 years, I believe, and that is under review with Christine already.
Great. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Who wants to start? Kristen, do you have any comments or like to add?
So we will be waiting for the Board of Health to weigh in before we take action. So tonight, this is an area, and they have an area inside for storage of hazardous materials where we believe, and you can clarify, that some of that area, it doesn't work very well, and there's I think might be some issues of meeting where the floor design isn't exactly as it should be. Also, and you guys can certainly weigh in on that, but what you're taking, really what's going on inside and bringing it outside so it can be in a safer environment, safer for kind of pickup. And it's in a fully designed container. The container itself is not very attractive, but it's fully designed for these purposes and secured. And again, they can talk more about it if you have questions. But what we have asked for is to ensure that it's easily accessible, not near anywhere that could have vehicle impact, which it's not, that it's fully fenced and surrounded by landscaping or arborvitaes and other things, as well as being secure for that's kind of the beginning of the conversations that we've had. Liz, I don't know if you can go to a little bit more zoomed in design. of what this is and where it is.
So, but
Oh,
from there, I don't know if you guys first want to talk about kind of the inside versus outside of the storage and kind of the benefit and why you're making this decision. That might be helpful to
Well,
inform the board.
the room that was originally constructed for this purpose is named M1970. And we found with our EHS director, Lisa Hartman, was concerned about its code compliance for the purpose that it was to be used for. And we did an analysis with NV5 engineers, and indeed, it would need some upgrades in order to be code compliant for this purpose. So we actually have not used that room, 2 years, I think, at this point. And we've been processing mostly in lab M1955, which is, has the code compliance for this purpose. Unfortunately, that's a bit different business unit. The lab owner is Michael Singer, and he uses it for different purposes. And so he has been accommodating for us until we find a solution. And, we looked at the code and the cost and the functionality of whether to renovate the room to make the originally intended room 1970, the 1970 room. And it just wasn't as functional, say, as putting this container out there. So there's sort of business reasons, and there are a number of different business units within the organization known as Millipore Sigma, and they do cooperate, but he would like to get his full space back, really. So, and we just weren't so keen on. We weren't certain of the outcome of getting compliance with this particular room in the way that it's configured. So we looked at this solution as an alternative.
Sure.
I have a number of questions. How large is this?
It's 36 feet long, 11 feet, 9 inches deep, and 9 feet high. It looks like a sort of a robust shipping container.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like in the picture we have too. Do we, for staff, is there any other business in town that has external storage of hazardous waste that we, in Burlington, that currently handles it this way?
Not sure.
Okay.
But we can certainly ask before our next meeting.
Is it hazardous waste or hazardous materials?
Well, I'll have Bobby address that specifically, but there are solids and there are liquids, and they can range anywhere from alcohol through other materials that have to be handled in a very specific manner through administrative control set by EH&S. They're just chemical names. I defer to Bobby to explain that.
But there's pickups and deliveries happening to this container? So things are being delivered and other things are being taken away?
Correct.
So there is waste as well as chemicals being stored for your use.
No.
Hi. Hello, this is Bobby Young.
Thank you.
Environment Health and Safety Engineer for Millipore Sigma. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Planning Board members. How are you?
Thank you for
Hi.
Hello.
Yes. Just to chime in, the container is to be used for a main accumulation area for hazardous waste, not hazardous substance. It's going to be spent hazardous waste stored there for accumulation until pickup by Clean Harbors.
So there's no deliveries to this, there's only pickup from here.
Well, there'll be deliveries of the waste from the
building.
end users in the building to that main accumulation area until time for offsite disposal.
Right. Okay, so just to follow up, your knowledge. So the hazardous materials that you're using are stored in the building. And once they're used, the waste is stored in this site.
Absolutely.
Oh, so maybe I can clarify. So you don't have like a Hubbard Hall chemical distribution coming to this particular building?
No, no, just the waste that, after it's been used by the scientists and collected in approved hazardous waste containers, our on-site Clean Harbors person, and we have a EHS technician that works with them as well. They go around and collect it, and they have approved containers and transport equipment to get it from point A to point B. Point B being the hazardous waste storage container that we're talking about, and it'll be stored there until we before our 90-day accumulation time is up. It'll be transported off-site by Clean Harbors.
So where does the chemicals get delivered to from, let's say, a distributor? They're fresh chemicals. Where do they don't get to the same spot?
Correct. They're not fresh chemicals. They're chemicals that Clean Harbors will take.
Stop. Please stop. So that's not what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about fresh chemicals that you get in that result in the waste chemicals. Where do the fresh chemicals get?
Oh, where you're asking?
Where?
The fresh chemicals comes into the loading dock. We have warehouse people that deliver it to the lab chemists. The lab chemists have chemical storage cabinets that they're stored in, and they use it as needed. And once it's spent and declared waste, it's collected and taken out to this. It will be taken out to this hazardous waste storage container, which we're calling our main accumulation area.
So where is the loading dock where they come in on this?
That's in the back of 600 Summit. And Neil, if you could show them on the plan where that is.
The cursor actually was, oh, sorry, was correct at the very first, right there, yes.
Okay.
And so now where we're going to put this container?
Second circle.
The second.
Second circle. So do you have the same controls, in your loading docks, the chemicals that are coming in that you're looking for in this hazardous waste chemical container on the way out? So when you come in, if you're looking at certain things, like you said, the room's not up to code. For some reason, and maybe, I don't know, explosive walls or something like that, that Bobby Young would know better. But wouldn't you have to have the same conditions on the inbound as you would have on the outbound?
Yes, the chemicals that they're using, that room 1955 that Neil mentioned that we have to give up, that's one of the storage areas. And also the flammable liquids and small amounts in like 1 liter bottles, no more than like 5-gallon containers, they have it, those stored in flammable storage cabinets.
So you're giving up the room for your storage. So are you using this container for your storage as well? Where you can, as they come into the loading dock, where that other 1555 room is, it should be pretty close. There should probably an outside wall, I'm guessing, that they've got there.
Yes.
Right? You want to put in a cursor where that special room is that you have to give up for a certain business unit? Okay.
I think it's about halfway down.
Yeah, about halfway down on the right.
Right on the
side.
right, right?
And there's a doorway out to the sidewalk.
That's currently where you're storing the hazardous chemicals, the incoming chemicals as well as the hazardous chemicals. My arms around the flow here, so if you're giving up that room, where does your chemical storage go? Because it's got to meet your certain requirement of explosive walls and things like that, right?
Yes. When you say giving up that room, we're giving it back to them for that. Right now, they've moved their chemicals out of that area. They all still have some there in flammable storage cabinets, right? But once we get the approval for this storage container exterior, all of our waste will be stored there until time for pickup. And that room 1955 will be turned over to completely turned over to the lab managers for their hazardous substance or hazardous chemicals storage.
So, but what I'm trying to get my head around is the business unit piece of it. You're getting, so he gets his lab space back so he can store chemicals there. But he's only one business, unit, right? Where do the other business units store their chemicals? Because
They have flammable storage. They have flammable storage cabinets within their lab space.
So each lab has their own cabinet to store their own materials. And
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
besides all environmental health and safety requirements and regulations. So.
Yeah.
In one word, I guess
Yeah,
it's
no,
just.
I'm guessing because what I'm seeing is, and I'm kind of familiar with it, is that when you come in with the volume material, and again, I don't know how much volume coming in, but if you're coming in 55-gallon drums and storing it into a place where you have to have that condition of the explosive wall, it looks like that one room has that. Those other ones, where do you then, divide out the chemicals? So it's like you need a central place for that. It can't be at the loading dock. It's probably in the special room, but it's for one business unit, not dividing it. So I'm just not right around kind of the reason why this is going to happen.
There are multiple business units there, right? And once they order their chemicals from Fisher or Sigma, which is us, it comes into the loading dock. The receiver notifies the lab manager. They come down with their carts designed to transport their chemicals, and they take it and they put it into their flammable storage cabinets until time for use. Each lab space has flammable storage cabinets, and also this room 1955 here that we're discussing. That particular business unit has a more robust storage area designed for like dispensing of flammable liquids, storage of flammable liquids, and the wall designs as the gentleman was describing there.
So I guess to piggyback off the vice chair's comments, are you bringing in more chemicals? Or,
No, we're not. No,
chemicals gonna be
no,
distributed,
no.
or you're just looking for additional space?
Well, we're not looking for additional space. We're looking for space that's designed for that purpose. The original room, 1970, wasn't designed properly because it had electrical outlets in it, and the segregation wasn't there for us. There's a whole lot of things wrong, and in terms of dispensing of the hazardous material inside that room to consolidate, the ventilation wasn't appropriate, so we just stopped. And the room 1955, which was designed for that purpose, it had the snorkel there where you can do dispensing. Everything in there was like explosion-proof wiring, outlets, so it was properly designed for what we wanted. But we've used up our time, and they want their space back. So this container that we're talking about is basically a Class 1, Division 1 flammable storage, corrosive. It's designed for hazmat storage. Everything in it's going to be XP. The fans, exhaust. You have a snorkel. You have everything you need to do hazardous waste management within that container.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll come back, but I'm sure we all have some more questions.
This handling these materials, and so forth, where they're stored and everything else, involves a lot of expertise. Because it's safety. Who in Berlin? Is it the building inspector? Is it the Board of Health? So the Board of Health are the people that have to actually assure and make sure that they follow all of the protocols and everything else. So in this instance, I look to the Board of Health and say, is this an appropriate way for them to now have a separate container that it's out by itself? The other containers are in the building, as I understand it, so eyes are on them. this is kind of out there by itself. So when I'm wandering around, you know, in that area, no, really, I mean, I go walk around, yeah, I do it all the time. And, you know, my concern is the assurance that this is compliant with everything that it needs to be compliant. with.
Imagine they require inspection, fire department.
I would think so.
But, well, it's the
Yeah.
fire.
The fire department
whoever
did
it is,
inspect.
Yes, the fire department, but I don't know, and if, unless they have something, because some of these chemicals are very corrosive, very hazardous. and so forth. And so you have to really have somebody with the expertise to know that in fact, if you put it in this container, that soon the container is going to be corroded and so forth. So, so that's, so my question is, who oversees all of this, if you will?
It's the Board of
I-
Health.
That's, well, the Board of Health, oversees the hazardous materials regulation or registration, right? And, hazardous waste falls under that. We inspect it annually, by the Board of Health. Ms. Mathis comes out and she does a walkthrough with us. And to answer your question regarding, making sure that the appropriate containers are used, that's overseen by me. We for a main accumulation area, right? The Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection oversees the hazardous waste management, and as part of that, this main accumulation area that we're proposing, it has to be inspected on a weekly basis. Okay, and what that does, it catches things that you just mentioned regarding is something leaking or is a drum not closed properly. But before that even happens, right, it's up to EHS to make sure that the end users are putting the chemicals into the right container. For example, you're not going to put a corrosive material into a metal drum and expect for it to last. So we make sure that they use plastic containers for corrosive. For flammable liquids, you can't ground a plastic drum, so we use metal.
Thank you.
Okay, so, thank you for that explanation, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, you did.
Member Spango?
Reclaiming my time.
Remember the rules before me. I'll go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. I trust that the Board of Health is going to make sure that this is safe. I'm going to put that aside for a minute. I would like to understand whether or not the room that you have, I think you called it 1970, if this is possible for you to bring it into compliance. If it's inconvenient and expensive, that's one thing, or is it impossible? I want to know that because I'm concerned about this. Not so much from a safety standpoint, because I trust that our Board of Health will make it safe, but we have a lot of other lab space in Burlington and we're going to be getting more of it. And I personally do not want to see a bunch of hazardous material containers scattered all over town, because no matter how many trees you put around it, it's not attractive. And I'm concerned about that. And I also want to know are all of the business units using this container?
Yes, they are. And the reason why we chose the external storage container is room 1970 is on the first level. There are 5 floors at 600. And in order for us to get the appropriate ventilation, we had to go up. And we couldn't because everything else is above that
Okay,
room.
so that particular room, it would be very difficult to vent it properly. Am I understanding you correctly?
Very difficult and almost impossible.
Okay, I still have concerns about this for the reasons that I stated. And I also am curious if all the business units are using this container, although it does seem relatively large, how long do you anticipate this serving your needs? is there a possibility you might come back in 5 years and say you want another one?
Well, I don't see that happening, because it's not manufacturing, it's research. One of the business units is a small manufacturing group, but the amount of waste that they generate is minuscule. And we would increase the pickup frequency to make sure that that doesn't happen.
What is the pickup frequency now, or what would it be?
Well, right now, due to the lack of drivers and all of the COVID challenges, we would like to get it every week. Our schedule is once a week, right? But sometimes that's delayed.
Okay, weekly would be your ideal, okay. I have a lot of concerns about this, and at first blush, I am not in favor because I see this as setting a precedent. And other businesses in town are gonna say, yeah, this is way cheaper and easier and faster to just stick a hazmat container in the parking lot and put some bushes around it. And I'm concerned that we may end up with a whole lot of these scattered around town, so I am not a fan at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Spaino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member LaRue took a lot of my questions, especially very concerned with this, and that this is going to be a permanent solution and that room 1970 can't be upgraded or brought up to code. My follow-up question to the questions that were already touched were, what brought us here? Is this a new use of the facility that someone just missed the ball in planning out a room that couldn't be ventilated to hold your hazardous materials? Kind of seems like a huge issue. Instead of, putting an external storage unit, I got a real I'm not really comfortable with doing something like that. What happened? Is this a new business model development that got us here?
Not sure if I can fully answer that. Bobby, do you want to try?
Well, I can give you the answer that I observed. Okay, is that long story short, the design was missed when the building was being built, and when we looked at it, we saw there was an issue. So our first approach was to look at, okay, what can we do to make this right? As I mentioned about the electrical outlets inside the hazardous waste storage area, that's a no-no. We looked at the ventilation. We were supposed to be dispensing chemicals in there and consolidating. We couldn't do it because that's a no-no, and the employees wouldn't be safe. So we looked at, okay, what can we do to make this right? We brought back in the design engineers, and apparently they weren't given the correct information as to what the actual use of the room was going to be. So long story short, it was almost impossible to achieve the ventilation that we needed because we couldn't get up to the roof because of the other buildings on top and all of the other utilities going through the plenum there. And the other situation was, okay, what can we do to make it safe? And the external waste storage container, I think the lady mentioned that they're not popular in Burlington, or she's not aware of any in Burlington, but they've been around for a long time. And they are safe, but they may not be aesthetically pleasing, but they are safe because they're designed almost like a bomb shelter. So,
is this the only solution you have? Like, you couldn't move stuff around or find a place that could be ventilated or get a ventilation system? Is this the only scenario that you have that you could fix this?
Well, I guess the other question to jump on here, if you don't mind, where that circle is, the second circle where you're putting this container, rather than doing a temporary solution that this can be moved, have you thought about putting a permanent solution that would be, addition to the building, something that would be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, something that, you could ventilate, and that you could, access potentially through the building, or even have a shuttle back and forth, between your loading dock and something, something along those lines? Has that been a discussion point?
Mark might be able to get better depth to this, but I just want to say that we evaluated the code compliance of that M1970 room. At that time, we knew about this as a possible solution. So I wanted to see how feasible it would be with the fire department to see, how they feel about an internal purpose-built room for all of this versus this exterior. And I'd have to look up the name, but it was a lieutenant with the fire department. I think it was in fire safety who.
Captain Hannah?
I think it was Hannafin, suggested he preferred the exterior solution, because they can approach it from all sides. It's not it's not an occupied space. And it obviously meets the code and construction criteria for NFPA, as well as the Uniform Building Code and the Mass State Building Code. So, it has all the appropriate signage. We certainly keep it under lock and key. There's an apron, space in front of it so that the person with the materials that are being put in and taken out has a staging area to safely accommodate it, and it's all separate from pedestrian walkways. So
Would you do a permanent structure that's just
Yeah,
access?
Mark Gifford, Millipore Sigma.
Thank
There are multiple options here. We have been steered to the exterior container because it's compliant and it's safe and it's cost effective. The proposed unit is close to $1 million. That's a container that's compliant. To build an addition onto the building or a room within the building, it's 4 or 5-fold that number.
Exactly why a bunch of other businesses are going to follow suit.
So I'm not, I really, you in the end have to decide what's compliant through the Board of Health and certainly have your opinions aesthetically. I don't really, and you'll rule the way you rule. I think it's important to understand that what we are doing now is compliant. We're not changing our chemical volume. We're not changing our practices. What we're proposing to do is to consolidate rather than have multiple lab managers take their chemicals once used that now become waste and then store them and have them regularly removed from the site compliantly through Clean Harbors. We want to consolidate those, let the scientists do their science and not worry about removal. And this is our proposal.
Do we know how other businesses in town are handling this? Internally, correct?
Yes, I think there's some areas that have units like these and that, well, not necessarily like exactly like this, but that may be more hidden or in the loading dock area but I can find out more specifically with the Board of Health because I don't know the answer right off the top of my head.
I think two things we would want to know. Does anyone else have one of these containers? And then second is how others are handling this matter. And I know Member Trevino is eager.
Yeah, I just, I've been kind of sitting here listening and, okay, so I understand putting all the hazardous waste in one place and having only one truck come once a week to pick it up. That's actually even safer for our community because that truck is only going up there once a week or whatever. So that makes sense to me. But what I don't understand is why this can't be just a standalone, as a compromise position, at least if you can't do it inside the building, why can't this be a standalone building? I mean,
it could be a standalone building, but a standalone building would require the property that you have to be compliant to build it.
Okay, can I interrupt you for a second? Sure. Can't you make that container look like a standalone building?
what we,
It's, actually, it does, well, it's a container, right? But it looks like a work trailer.
It
if you
looks like,
will.
it
But-
looks like what we're trying to avoid in Burlington. It looks like a storage container.
we can certainly, and I can't remember what you said, but I view it collaboratively, not as an interruption, and working through the issue with you, certainly. This backs up into a berm that's 2 or 3 times the size of the container. So there's certainly one side of it is not visible from anywhere. We would fence it, we would put vegetation around it. We've actually been concerned about how it would look from the building looking down, because we have terraces on the building, and from our point of view, how it would look. You know, if it's an absolute, if it's, you're from the ground and you walk around the property, you're not going to see that container, because it is camouflaged by a fence and vegetation. If a requirement or a condition is we have to roof it with something that, from a helicopter's point of view, you couldn't see a Millipore branding label on it, you know, if that's a condition, we can certainly entertain that. But I think it is important that we're showing you the container so you can see what it looks like.
Right.
That's not the finished product.
Can we see
Yeah.
the surrounding area a little bit? I'd like to see, like, is this visible from 128? Is it visible from the houses in Lexington that are on that street that looks over Millipore? I'd like to try and figure that out. I don't know if we can. There we go.
And again, you have to walk the property yourself, but with being perfectly candid, I'm not sure you can see that building from anywhere other than a helicopter. Even when.
I would tend to agree with that. This, and, hi, this is Bobby Young again, right? I think the gentleman had mentioned something about, can we make it look more like a building? And Mark, you can chime in here, right? We're gonna have a concrete pad, we're gonna have a walkway, it's gonna be fenced in. What if we say we put an awning on the front of the container to make it look more aesthetically pleasing?
I think that there's, I don't even know if we're gonna get there. I think a couple things need to happen. I think that, you know, we probably should have a sidewalk. And concept of the property, as you had said, I think that might be for folks. I think also, you know, you talked about, do we know, can you find out from the vendor if there are any of these containers in the Middlesex area? Because if there is one, we could go and visit it and see what it looks like. And then additionally.
Yes, we, I would have to get the address, but we visited one in Woburn, I believe.
Yes.
That would be good. If you could get us that address, that would be great. And then also, you know, you discussed how, you know, this isn't the finished product. If you think that you can make, you know, I'm gonna use the expression that, you know, it's like putting perfume on a pig, it's still gonna look like a shipping container. But if you think, perfume, it works. If you think that you can make this aesthetically pleasing, bring us the rendering of what you think it could look like, and, you know, and show the board.
Madam Chair, one thing real quick, and I'm speaking for myself, not the whole board. My concern, and it sounds like you're taking it this way, is really not the aesthetics. My concern is the precedent. We're in Burlington, we're in the middle of a movement of trying to attract life science to the town. And if we allow this and continue it, and I don't care what it looks like, it can look like Disneyland. Other companies are going to see this and say, hey, Millipore did it. This is the most cost-effective way to store these chemicals. Let's just get an outdoor container like they do. And we'll have these things all over town. And aesthetics are, I'm not even worried that it looks like a battleship. It's the precedent.
I agree completely.
Precedent. It's
a valid.
Flowers on it, it doesn't matter. It's the precedent.
I agree completely. It's a valid concern. We want Burlington to be a place where life sciences thrive. I think that you will find when you research, this is a preferred industry practice, and it's very common. And some of this has to do with the fact that a lot of us don't have experience in the area, and hopefully your diligence will prove that out. The company that we acquired that is now in Building 600, they moved, they had their chemical storage in an exterior container in Natick. And my experience in seeing these containers, what we've proposed aesthetically is much nicer than the norm, just because that's the way we do things. And Bobby is, EH&S is driven as a safer, although we are compliant, a safer solution that we are doing, what we're doing now in the interest of our employees and in the town. So I agree with the precedent. We're not looking to set a precedent. I think what we want to do is be compliant and do it right.
But you
Right.
will.
I'm not sure that's true. I think.
How wouldn't it be true?
I think when we talk to the Board of Health, we will see that there are other containers in Burlington and in the surrounding community.
Find out, yeah, I think that, it's almost a bigger conversation that we have to have as to how we want to handle hazardous waste storage in Burlington, especially since we are hoping to attract more life science companies. It's something that we hadn't thought of, and now we probably need to do that.
Improve these buildings, we're not saying have a.
Lucky you're number one.
You know what? It's my whole career. It's fine. It's fine. I do not want to leave this meeting. We want to be collaborative. We want to be compliant. And if we happen to be the guinea pig on this, that's fine. Because in the end, we're not going anywhere. We leased the building. It was developed by the developer. We now own it, and we hope to expand in the area at some point. So we need a working relationship.
Are they going to Board of Health?
The Board of Health, they said on the 13th.
13. I just want to.
Actually, it's the 9th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
November
No,
9th.
your meeting.
Oh, sorry.
Mathis on the 13th.
Yeah, so, you know.
They're working out here, Deb.
Yeah, just to add another comment regarding the waste storage containers. They've been in use for a long time. We had one at one of our locations in the.
If you're not speaking, could you please mute?
For a long time.
Can you mute for whoever knows?
Call the number, so we can talk, and if it says it's the wrong number. I got it up here.
I'm sorry, please continue.
I was just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the containers. They are very safe. They've been around for many years. We had one at our Bedford location at 75 Regans. And they're designed for safe storage of hazardous materials and also dispensing. It's explosion proof. Everything in it is except for the precedent, as the gentleman mentioned. It's a storage container, but everything within it is compliant. There's a secondary containment. There's ventilation. Everything's there.
We understand that, and that's not the issue. It's, the issue is, once again, it's precedent, it's the aesthetics, it's a number of things, depending on which board member you're speaking with. So, Member Pebble?
Yeah, just a quick question I don't have an answer to is how is it secured to the ground?
Is there a foundation?
There is a structural frame, same as what you have with Not Always. It's dunnage, purpose-built for the container by the container manufacturer, and it is anchor bolted structurally to a structural slab that has this retaining wall around it. We have better drawings that
It's a concrete pad anchored to the pad.
Yeah, I don't even know if it makes sense.
It can't be.
I think at this point, we really need to talk to Board of Health to see where these other containers are. If there are any more in town, if there is a rendering of what it would look like, if you were to put the bushes and the fencing and everything else. But I think at this point, we're kind of just going over the same thing over and over again. But, we really should
We can certainly address aesthetics and construction drawings. We can't address the precedent piece. So, I mean, I propose let's do what we got to do to get you comfortable with it being a precedent or really an aesthetic issue.
Again, I think that we really need to have a conversation with Board of Health and figure out how we're going to be handling this going forward, because this isn't going to be the first time that a proponent presents this in front of us.
So do you ever, is there any locations that you know of that have these submerged in the ground?
Well, I think with some, if I may, okay, you can't have it submerged in the ground. What it is, instead of being a bomb shelter, I think that was covered earlier, it's actually not a bomb shelter. They actually have explosive relief sides. So the idea is that if there is an explosion, it explodes out. So you can't have it contained.
In a certain direction. Right,
So controlled direction.
but
There's containment also. Like,
But it wouldn't be,
so if something drips, it gets contained.
in other words,
You increase your.
but you
the ceiling
have
could be,
such that you can't see it, it's under the ground and it's contained.
yeah, if you
So
had
if
a
anything
ceiling that was, had.
And then a ceiling that exploded up.
Right.
Right, so you only need one direction for it to explode up. If it exploded
I
up,
think if you go below grade and you're storing chemicals below grade, you open yourselves up to some exposure and some risk that you don't have with the current design.
so even given the precautions that they put in place now these days with
Yes.
gas station, where they completely seal and then submerge, that wouldn't be sufficient to take care of them. To me, in my opinion, you're not exposed to hurricanes, tornadoes, or anything like that if it's submerged into the ground, and that explosion mechanism could explode up.
I have not seen that or heard of it in the industry. We can certainly explore it. I mean, you have access issues and different things, but.
Yeah, I mean, you clearly could have just a doghouse kind of an entrance, and then boom, you go down and.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone from the public have any comments on this item?
I will say that I haven't opened with the Board of Health yet. It sounds like there's a lot of questions. We could certainly send the link to the Board of Health meeting to you guys. And certainly, if you'd like us to collect questions from you to forward to them, we can certainly do that, and or certainly tune in yourself.
I would appreciate that.
Madam Chair, could we get the address of the one that's in Woburn?
Yeah, well, they're gonna get that for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
thank you.
done on.
Thank you.
Great. May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of November. Do we want to do November 4th, or do we want to wait until after the Board of Health?
I'd like to wait until after the Board of Health.
So maybe the
Yeah, we're not gonna.
second November meeting?
So
18th.
is it 18?
Yeah.
So to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of November 18th, 2020. Maybe we know.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Phyllis, you have a question?
Some of the time, I'm sorry. But I was.
Oh, Board of Health.
That's a Board of question. We should wait.
Maybe I can just find out.
Yeah, we have a list. Could you ask quickly
Thank you.
online? We didn't look, if there was anyone.
Do we
around.
have it?
I don't see it.
Doesn't,
It doesn't.
doesn't look like it.
Sorry, I just want to make sure.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Steve?
We'll work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take items 7B through 7E together for discussion purposes.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Opposed? Item B is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 6.1.1.2, expansion of a non-conforming use zoning bylaws, 207 Cambridge Street, Phase 0, design as the applicant. Item C is a continued public hearing, application for permit pursuant to 4.15, storage and disposal of oils and fuels, petroleum products of zoning bylaws, 207 Cambridge Street, Phase 0, design as the applicant. Item D is continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.3.2.16, storage of hazardous and toxic materials, chemicals for retail sale, zoning bylaws. 207 Cambridge Street, Phase 0 is the applicant. Just want to note that we did continue one of the matters in the beginning of this meeting, so we're really just focusing on the aesthetics, the facade, and the landscaping. So we're not talking about site plan, we're not talking about traffic or anything, we solely want to focus just on the facade and the landscaping.
Madam Chair? Yeah,
Yes.
just quickly, something that's not exactly pertinent to this, but it's related. Mrs. O'Neill was here earlier and she couldn't stay, but she had expressed a question. She wanted to know if staff had been working with, is it MDM?
Other business issues.
Yes, and if there had been any movement there. I know it's not this property, but if we could maybe just get back to Mrs. O'Neill with progress report on that, that was,
Yes, we have taken a look at it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Staff, do you have any comments that you'd like to make? Progress report.
Liz has been working hard on this.
So again, I think kind of what you stated, Madam Chair, is that we're solely focusing on aesthetic. O'Reilly kind of requested, they wanted your feedback on their latest rendering, so that's why they're here. They're not expecting a vote because we're voting on both of these things. You can't have a special permit without your site plan. So that is why we're here, but just any feedback for them so that they feel that, you know, when they come back, that they're on the right foot. And then from O'Reilly, would you like us to share, or would you like to share the meeting items yourselves? What do you think?
If you don't mind sharing, that would be awesome.
Can you introduce who's here on behalf of O'Reilly?
Yeah, on behalf of O'Reilly, you have myself, Tiffany Lawson, and Alicia Joslin.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And what's your role?
Alicia is the project designer, and I am the supervisor.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And good evening, this is Jim
Yeah.
Kimball with Phase Zero Design.
Great. Can you share this and walk us through your design?
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity again tonight to review the elevations. Obviously,
Walk us through your design.
I'm sorry. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm sorry. So what we wanted to do is just to share the latest evolution of the exterior design. You know, we listened intently to some of the comments and feedback from the last hearing. And so we're making some changes. So that's what, and we think for the better. So hopefully you agree and give us some feedback, and look forward to wrapping this one up pretty soon here. So what you see here is kind of a photoshopped rendering of the the Cambridge Street facade. And we took a shot at putting in some of the landscaping in out front. And we know that that's more of the landlord's purview, but just wanted to give you a sense of how you approach the building. And one of the biggest comments or concerns we took away was not having slip roofs or gable elements. And we talked previously about, you know, extending the height of the facade. To do something like that would kind of have a domino effect on structural and wind loads and snow loading and what have you. So we went back to the drawing board and we kind of looked at it, and we were able to kind of shape and massage the front facade here to get one of the, to get a kind of a gabled pediment element over the set of stairs and the egress doors on Cambridge Street. So you know, the point of the gable's not too high. We're not concerned about the snow loading. And again, we were able to kind of shrink it from left to right and then bring it down a little bit in elevation to make it work. The other kind of aspects
That's
to
hard.
it is, I'm sorry?
It's good though.
So on other aspects to the design that we evolved, again, to try to make it a little bit better, is we replaced all of the ephes with hardy planks. So the pilasters on either side of the entrance element and on the corners and along the parking lot side, we took ephes away and we made it all white trim and hardy board plank. So that was kind of an upgrade that we added. We also replaced the red sign band that we had and both over both entrances. What we did was we worked with the O'Reilly team. We came up with just a kind of a box sign that's not lit, and we were able to reduce the amount of red area by doing that. Still going to have the gooseneck lighting to shine on it at night, but what we felt it would be more colonial, more the aesthetic would be a little bit more pleasing if we reduce the amount of red area. So that was another improvement that we made. Another element that we replaced was we had shown originally some hunter green awnings over the existing glazing, and we were upgrading that to metal standing seam roof material. Again, that's more, has more detail to it, holds its color longer, and it's just, it adds, I think, more interest than just a straight green fabric awning. So again, that's another upgrade that we made to both facades. So if you don't mind going to the elevations.
Yes.
Thanks. So what I wanted to walk you through is on the parking lot side. You know, obviously we would like to have done a gable element on this side, but given the width of what we needed to what we were working with, getting that pediment here would make it extremely tall to work with the proportions. So what we did was here, we didn't put a pediment on this entrance, but what we did was, we took the red away, reduced that, and we added more hardy board planking, took all the ephes away, and a lot more white trim. And again, you can see we replaced the awning material with a metal seam, metal roof material. So the landscaping elements are the same on this elevation. In the front, well, the Cambridge Street side, we're still showing the planters on that elevation as well. So hopefully, you know, we're moving in the right direction. We think we are, but we would love to get some feedback from the board.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the record, I viewed this on the video and signed my own form there. I know they're on here, as you've got the arborvitaes, you talked about the bollards in the collection area right in front. And, you know, just how the folks here might be, so how I feel about the bollards, they might look like, but is there an opportunity to make that with fence versus bollards? Last one. My other thought here with the landscaping is that I do see the shrubbery, we see that a lot. Just ideas and actually put actual trees there. So you've gone from the mirror to the frosting, which is better, but there's nothing, nobody's going to be looking out at that. And, so if you could put maybe a tree or two on either side of that doorway facing Cambridge Street, there's actual, you know, standing trees. Maybe the same comment I have on the parking lot side, Chicago, the south side. You know, we have this little shrubbery, but if you look around town, when we say we move the shrubbery up into the chairman and the planning board, they don't tend to have trees there. It's just very low, that, you know, even if the oil change across from the high school, they could have enhanced them with actual trees. So maybe there's a consideration. They'd have to dig some pavement. Oil change across from the high school. That's the staff, be putting trees in where maybe it's a consideration. Let's say you have some pavement, University of Hampshire. Put in the state of, so you can use some different thinking there with regard to actions.
Thank you, Liz. So just kind of a response to that, Member Gaffney, I will definitely relay those comments. I believe that kind of to the, on this side where the tree is and the arborvitae's, that's going to be handled by the property owner. Correct me if I'm wrong, O'Reilly, I see you nodding your heads. Definitely, that's a site, kind of a site plan question. And so that is, so that's just.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, we did want to point out that the property owner actually did propose trees where that bush is, but we actually requested that it be a bush instead because we didn't want the signage on that side to be blocked. So that was, that direction actually came, or that request came from us. Just so that we have more visibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having a hard time understanding you. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, we were saying we had asked that tree be removed so that our signage wasn't blocked. That's pretty much the biggest view of O'Reilly from Cambridge Street. So we had requests from the property owner to remove the tree where those reddish, pinkish shrubs are at the front by the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about either side of the doorway.
Right, I think what we're Vice Chair Gaffney is referring to is in these beds where these flowers are.
Okay.
Front of the windows.
Okay.
Liz, if you could forward them that tree, I don't know the proper terminology, but
Tree well.
thank you. Yeah, that Vice Chair Gaffney had sent out. That would be helpful. I think that might be a good idea and a good fit for this project.
I'm sad that the tree's going away. And can we have more trees, maybe a
that's-
little bit further back? Site plan?
Site plan.
Okay.
So, you know, I will say I like this better. I think you're getting there. I like the gooseneck. I like how you reduce the red. I like the more colonial feel. Again, we talked about trees and some of these plants. I think the entrances look good. Are you gonna put some lighting on the sides of these, the front of the doors? Or you're just gonna leave that to the gooseneck lighting above the O'Reilly part? Like maybe like 2 lamps on each side? Just a thought, I don't know. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns? Comments?
Yeah, that's, the front is still only going to be an exit, is that correct?
It's not gonna be anything, right?
Emergency exit.
It's just emergency.
Right, so not an entrance,
Don't want to attract people to
which is gonna be yeah. it's gonna-
trying to. So as to, yeah, I understand aesthetically, the lights would look good, but is that gonna make people, I don't know.
Well, so to that point, and I think you're right on point with that, I feel like, and I know this is getting into the site, but it's kind of addressing the same concern is you've got parking over here, people are gonna think that's an entrance. I feel like there's only a few spots, and I understand to the left, those are handicapped, and that's where the ramp is, so those need to stay.
Yep.
But all these other ones are only inviting people to park, walk up here, and then get frustrated, and then have to walk all the way around to go to the
Yes, so
right, and that's.
plant a nice garden.
Maybe that's.
It's you guys standing at the door.
Right, I mean, and you're really only picking up a few spots, to be honest with you. From here, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's where you put the reserve parking.
There's only maybe 4.
Leave it on the plan as parking. a note that it's covered with grass.
Well, I'm thinking that that's maybe the way we do that. And then, the railings look very kind of commercial looking. Maybe build some nice looking railings if you can leave the stairs and everything there, but take away the parking in the front and just put some trees and some grass and, it's gonna prevent a lot of,
Stage.
in my opinion, I think it's immediately, if I'm going in there and I'm coming from another town or I'm not knowing that, I'm pulling right in there and I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna be mad and then I'm gonna walk down here and I'm gonna walk literally around the building, because you're not, you really shouldn't be going a ramp, you should be using the regular entrance. And there's plenty of parking on the side to accommodate that entrance. So I feel like this whole front needs to discourage people from parking here and then going up and getting frustrated and going around. But I understand that's a site thing, but it's a major
It makes sense.
thing, yeah. And in which case we can then,
To here, no one is gonna park in the front except people who have
the
handicap.
handicap, and they're gonna go right where they need to go.
Right.
Everybody else is just naturally gonna go right around, and then we catch them, when we are able to talk about the site plan, we can catch them in the traffic, patterns that we want to catch them in and control it a little bit better. And, given that, if we can, look at this area, I think we can manage to fit trees and, have a beautiful little, maybe a center of town that has a little gather, like I said, either a gathering or at least an inviting kind of an area to it.
Flowers and benches.
A pocket park, right? I can't make them do a pocket park, but
So grass with benches.
So I think maybe some grass. with
yeah,
benches.
well, exactly.
We're going site plan, guys.
Right, but,
Okay, you're right.
okay, so that's that piece of it. And then, we go to the side over here, which is where the real entrance is. And it certainly looks better, but it still looks very commercial to me. I would like to see, like you did over there. I think it would be a big difference to see some sort of a gable look to it.
How are you gonna make that look colonial, Joe?
Well, it can look more colonial than it does now by just doing this to the side. And I understand you're talking about the fact that it's wider and it might be, I don't know if it becomes harder, or you just make the slope a little bit less and you bring it up and, maybe do
Maybe a hip roof
design feature to it. Or,
you did a great job with the piano place, so.
yeah, and then and then what we did with the piano place was we took away the curse of the straight roof with, putting some, you look at that, it's got actually some.
Yeah.
What
The
are they
folks at
called?
home can't see what you're drawing.
I don't.
Should have known that.
Very nice, very nice.
I can't see what I'm drawing either, but if you want to get on, you could see what I'm drawing, because that's what we drew and that's what they did.
That used to be the Sears Parts.
Yeah,
store
yeah,
like that,
that's right.
And it was a very similar looking building, so
Right.
that's probably good. If maybe the staff can help them to understand where the piano.
I like
place is.
that.
Or send
It looks
pictures.
nice. Actually, while we're on the facade there on the side, I agree, it looks much better, and I also enjoy Joe's drawing. But I wanted to ask if there was anything we could do to make the service doors just slightly less ugly. And I understand they're service doors, there's not a whole lot you can do about them, but maybe put a little awning over them or something like that, so that it just looks a little.
What it did to the.
Bring the awning over here and continue it.
Yeah, just something.
Continue the awning over this section.
Because
as
it
well.
looks very stark. The rest of the building, you've made it look nice, and then there's like this break, and it's like, okay, here's our ugly part.
Yeah.
But you could just extend that and make it look a little better with awnings over those doors, I think.
Like this over
Yeah.
this,
So
put
Joe's
the awning down here.
Joe's,
We'll get your copy.
we'll get your copy of Joe's drawing, but for the folks who can't see it, he has a gable roof, and he actually kind of extended the height of the building, so it wouldn't be,
Yeah, you can bring this down if you want it.
This.
Well, the slope, you can slope it a little less to bring it out further.
About doing this.
It's funny, just on a side note, we had this discussion with Andy Boyajian at AJ Rose.
Yeah.
You remember that? And I went down and he was adamant he didn't want to do with it. Andy Boyajian called me about a week ago and thanked me for having that. He says it just, people have just commented on it. It's made it more inviting. His business is thriving and he's not saying it was so, but the simple fact that it's more inviting, people use it more and the business is now thriving. But he called me up. I went down there with him and, we actually got the design from Clax. I got the design from Clax Trading Post up in New Hampshire. The bank, there was a bank that had a facade and it was kind of that. And I asked him to do it. He wanted to put just metal on it. And he was good enough to go along with it and save that barn.
Oh, yeah.
That barn is beautiful and it's a beautiful location. And it's created a different feel down in that area of town. And I think that's what can be done here as well, only this is even more visible than that is.
Right.
It
is. Does anybody else
Make a comment?
Sure.
Well, what Joe was talking about, I agree with you that if we make the part that's facing Cambridge Street look too much like an entrance, we're gonna get cursed. Every time people go around it and they're trying to get in, and they're gonna say, well, why did they do that? So if we can somehow designate that as parking for the people that are working in the building or whatever.
Or just grass.
And through signage or whatever, let people know that is, I used an expression which we used many years ago regarding clothing, that something looks like something which it actually isn't. And that looks like something which it actually isn't. It's
Well,
not-
Paul, if you take away, so my point to that was, again, not to get too much into the site, but if you take away the handicap spots, which we will leave, they belong there, remove those. I don't mean remove them, I say leave them there and remove them from the rest of it. You're really only talking about 3 or 4 spots. that
Remove
you're
all
now
this
gonna-
parking from the right to the right of the handicap parking.
Right, and now you've created a sea of pavement in the front just to accommodate 3 or 4 parking spots that people are only gonna get frustrated parking in because they're gonna go in the wrong entrance.
I think the idea was for employees to park there, but there is plenty of parking on the side. It would be lovely to have a green space there, and it would prevent your customers from getting frustrated when they park in the wrong place.
The other comment I had, Joe, is regarding trees. Now, there are all kinds of places where there are nice, small trees.
Yes.
They don't grow big.
That's right.
And they really change the facade when you see a couple of nice little trees there. And I agree with you.
Big trees, they have them in Woburn Center, they're all around the center, and they don't really get wide, so they're not blocking anybody's signs.
They don't get
And
heavy.
they don't get that high, and they're pretty tolerant to, a lot of,
Ornamental.
area. Yeah, so, that would be beautiful in the front 4 of those, and then some grass, and then we accommodate the real entrance over here with the parking on the side.
So, does anyone else have anything else?
It would be helpful to get a little bit of consensus over certain items.
Okay,
like-
so I'm gonna run it down and then.
Yeah, that's fine,
miss
but
something.
just,
Okay, so I think you've heard the group of regarding, the trees. We'd like to see more trees on the sides and in the front. Staff will send you pictures or the tree wells that we were referring to. And, of course, what street trees look like, as member had said. The gable on the Cambridge Street side, I think, is something that we really want to go back and revisit. We will send you.
You know, the side.
I'm sorry, excuse me, on the side. We can.
so a gable like the front on the
Gable
side.
like the front, and if we have to, if you have to raise.
Similar.
Exactly, so it matches more.
Is that
I think everyone's kind of.
It would be nice if it
It
can
would
be.
be.
If it's doable, yeah, it'd be nice.
Well, if people like it, you tell Joe.
Don't know, I just. I'll agree.
And then also, the surface entrance, if we could extend that awning and maybe make that more aesthetically pleasing.
I think that would be something that we would also like to see. We're not going to address site plan stuff, but you obviously heard, what the board had said regarding maybe adding some more green. The awning, I already said the black awning. Yeah, I got the awning.
And overall, it is better. We're getting there.
It is. You are-
It is definitely a lot better than what.
Please don't think we're beating you up.
Right, so
This is-
adding some positive to the conversation, a lot better.
Yes, you're doing a great job in that respect. And then as far as the doors, you don't like the doors, Jeff?
Well, no, I'm just saying, I think Bob was saying, the gray is very, battleship looking, right? If you just maybe made it either black to match with the awnings or, did something that would,
I don't know, you would go
color.
black on black? I don't know.
Well, so the
Let's
doors,
look at
yeah.
the coloring of the doors, because
How do you feel about the awnings, awning material and lighting?
I like the lighting, I like the awnings. I do like the awning material. I'm in favor of all of this.
Okay. And then the only comment we have is just to make sure that the entrances and the handicap ramps are well lit. Right now, there's a lot of pack lighting on the building and we prefer more down, direct down.
Correct. Also the railings, in the front, I think we said were a little harsh. We could dress those up a little bit. That would
Especially since they're not gonna be.
Are they redoing railings all over the place anyways? Because it sounds like that's what they're doing.
yeah,
So, I mean, it may be an opportunity to look at some railing,
okay.
like more of a wrought iron look versus if it's a wrought iron, yeah, I mean, because they have some nice railings that we can, that if they're gonna change them anyway, we could maybe, that would really dress it up a lot.
The plan does say new metal railing.
I don't know if it's, I don't know what the look of them, maybe we get a picture of what they're intending to use and put
Yeah,
some.
we can definitely do that.
Great.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone from the public have any items regarding, any comments regarding this item? Anyone, Liz?
We have quite a few people on the phone that had to mute, so
Regarding O'Reilly?
I believe so. So they may need to unmute themselves.
Is there anyone on the phone that would like to discuss this matter or have any comments regarding this matter?
If you are on the phone, I believe it's star 6 that
Start, yes.
Star six.
It may be the residents that are back, because some of them came to some of the meetings and so forth.
Okay. I'm not hearing anyone.
I don't see anyone actively, Jen. But if if somebody comes to your attention, Jen, just let us know, but I don't see anybody currently.
Okay. May I have a motion?
Madam Chairwoman, I make the motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of November 4th, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening. We'll see you next,
A lot of progress made, I
November
think.
4th. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take items 7F through 7G and 7G together for discussion purposes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item F is public hearing, application for approval of an amendment to a special permit pursuant to 4.3.2.22, drive-through the zoning bylaws, 28 Wynn Street, Morton's Donuts, Brady's the applicant. Item G is a discussion, application for approval of a minor engineering change, 28 Wynn Street, Morton's Donuts Incorporated as the applicant. Good evening. Who's here? The applicant?
Yes, Bill Lucas with Bowler.
Good evening, Lisa Dempsey, franchisee.
Good evening, Gil. Good evening, Bill. Good evening, Lisa. Staff, do you have any comments that you'd like to start off with?
Sure, so we had some questions at the last meeting about the experience here at Dunkin' Donuts, what they're seeing for trips in the morning, how long people are taking to come through the drive-through, as well as we saw the engineer has the queue stack that could be accommodated in the drive-through, but really try to gain a better understanding of how many cars are coming, how fast they're coming through, how is this plan going to alleviate the queuing into Wynn Street, as well as understanding that movement in the parking lot and in and out of the parking lot curb cut to make sure, cars don't get trapped in the curb cut. So what we have received since the last meeting is a spreadsheet of the experience during the day that they had put together for us in an Excel spreadsheet that we sent you guys out early to understand what was happening there every day, how long the average person took to go through the drive-through, as well as we had asked the police department to give us some information on any police crash data and any other incident report that we received that from the police department. And what we would like for the applicant to kind of walk you guys through tonight is understanding just what I described, the number of people coming through, the ability to capture those people within the drive-through, and kind of just reassure us based on that experience, as well as the capacity within the drive-through itself, that we won't be having backups on Main Street and other issues. That's the first thing that we hope that they'll walk us through. And then the second is just, again, the question of just maneuvers in and out of the parking lot and just making sure that backup of the queue doesn't block the entrance exit of the single entrance exit. So that's what I hope that we gain from tonight's conversation. Again, it's just, I think this is great. I think the Dunkin' Donuts coming forward to try to alleviate this issue is good, but we just want to make sure what we're seeing is going to alleviate the issue and not create any other problems. So just learning a little bit more about how this is going to work.
So Lisa, do you want to start off and share what you'd like to present and what's different from last meeting?
Yeah, that's, I can take the lead. Do you happen to have the PDF of the site?
Yes.
Is that it? If you could pull that up, that'd be fantastic. Thank you. Just to give everybody a refresher. At this point in time, we've made no changes to the site plan itself. In general, the proposal is to reorganize the parking layout as it stands today. The drive aisles are in multiple directions, both up and down on the plan and side to side, parking generally throughout, and with a single queuing lane for the drive-through at the rear or the top of the page in this manner. So the proposed parking layout now shows a single aisle from left to right with an additional parking space. So we've made an increase from the existing 29 spaces to now 30 spaces on the site. And we also provided a striped area on the far right northeast corner of the parking field is a striped area for oversized vehicles. We also are proposing a landscaped curbed island at the northern end of the parking field that physically separates the parking field from the drive-through itself, therefore alleviating some of the confusion that is happening out there now in terms of where the parking area is and what is designated for the drive-through. What we've also introduced between the building and after the order point, or where the cars start to merge, as you see on this screen, there is a small emergency cut through that goes from the northern portion to the southern portion to allow vehicles to quote unquote escape or leave the drive-through in some case of emergency. We have not changed anything with respect to the driveways. Those will remain as is. On the right-hand side is a full movement in and out, and on the left-hand side, it's right out and left out. Now, if you can, Liz, if you can go back to the previous screen, I just want to identify the stacking that's occurring out there today. Great, thank you. What we're showing here is basically a model of how the cars should stack currently for the drive-through use on the site. And what this shows is approximately 13 cars to the end of where we stop them before they start to impact some of the parking spaces on the site. We could probably have shown cars going all the way back to the edge of the property at Wind Street, but we chose this point in particular so we can compare apples to apples when we look at the proposed conditions, if you don't mind flipping to the next. So 13 cars stacked here. And in the proposed condition, what we're showing is this double stacked drive-through, the side-by-side version, where we're showing approximately, I think it's 21 stacked vehicles here. So an increase of 8 vehicles stacked for the drive-through use. And this drive-through would now have 2 order points, one for each lane. After they make the order, they would merge back together and then proceed to pick up their order. So in summary, from just the parking and the drive-through layouts, we've increased the number of parking spaces on the site. We're above the minimum. As we described last time, we have the minimum required plus about 15 more for employee use. So we are well above where we need to be with compliance. And then at the same time, we've increased the stacking on this site to about the same location by 8 vehicles. If you go to the next slide, this ties into some of the data that we sent you. I think there's a 4th slide. No?
I can bring up the,
yeah, if you, I sent a summary, but I can read off what I have here, or I can take control.
Is this the drive-through tabulation that he's looking for, Liz?
Yes, that slide.
We have that data.
So we did a drive-through tabulation and
Are you looking for the Excel spreadsheet?
here we go, found it.
Oh, there.
Don't worry, we got it.
Yeah.
and then 3 months, what we were considering post-pandemic, or basically the most current 3 months from this point in time. And we broke it down into the peak time, which is 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. or for the weekdays and the weekends. So if we looked at the weekdays, during the pre-pandemic, we had an average of about 442 trips through the drive-through. And then post-pandemic, that number drops to about 372 average trips through the drive-through. So what we're experiencing right now is probably what most people are experiencing during the pandemic. Fewer people are probably going to work, and therefore they're getting fewer customers going through their drive-through. And it's a significant number. Likewise, what further proves that out is that we're looking at the pre-pandemic peak hours on the weekends, and that average vehicle through the drive-through is about 291, and post-pandemic through on the weekends during that peak hour is 258. So another decrease of about 30 vehicles just on the weekend peak hours. So again, that's seems consistent with people not moving around too much and staying home for a variety of reasons. So with all that said, I think Lisa could speak to this if we need her to, but I think she's also seeing, just a general decrease across the board. And it's something that's not just specific to the Burlington site, but it's across the region. Everybody is seeing, fewer numbers of trips to their sites and specifically through the drive-through use.
Am I reading this correctly? Maybe you can explain
Time
this to
what?
me. The time-wise, if we're saying you have less people pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic, but it's taking you longer. We had a discussion, you had said that you ramped up staffing so that you could have a quicker trip time, but that doesn't appear to be the case for this tabulation.
So, and I think that, Lisa could speak to this as well, but what we believe is happening is that the trips are now different, right? You have people that aren't necessarily going to work and just ordering a coffee, which is quick to prepare and deliver. You have customers that are showing up and they're making multiple orders and probably taking those home with them for multiple people in the household. So, and I think this bears out, and Lisa can speak to that because it's her business, but I think the receipts per vehicle that go through there have increased in dollar value. So really what's happening is that people are making larger orders. Fewer people are showing up, but people are making larger orders, which then impacts the time. But what has been occurring during, everything post-pandemic, they're not having any issues with cars flowing back out into the street. Everything's been contained on the site with the minor modifications that they've made to allow people to stack differently, which is very similar to what we're proposing on the plan. Lisa, I don't know if you want to speak a little more to that.
Yes, hi. Hello, everybody. That's correct, Bill. What's happening is we're seeing less cars with an increase of timings of an average of 30 seconds due to the fact that our average ticket is higher. People are ordering more. People are working from home or they don't want to leave their office, so people are ordering more for people, and that's what we're seeing. Pre-pandemic, it was usually just a one item, a coffee, a donut, and now we're seeing, 2 items, 3 items, and they're ordering more for people. And we're seeing this across the region. I was just at a corporate meeting yesterday, and we do have backup if you need it from corporate that this is happening across the region.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe you can have a one.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Yes.
I do. I have a quick-
Sure.
maybe. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as I look at the data, it's interesting that you go from a fairly large window of 5 to 10 in the morning. I would expect that you have that becomes a bell curve, right? You have less people at 5 and 10, and the great majority of what you guys between 6 and 9. Is there a way you can cut that data? So you have how many average vehicles between 6 and 9 versus 5 and 10. And recalculate. The way I'm kind of rounding it up on all cases, it looks like you're doing it 2 cars per window. Is that about right?
I can change the day part. If you're requesting that, I can do that. That's not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Does anyone else have? Bill has some drawings again.
I got some drawings.
Drawings.
Artist in residence.
I'm gonna
Get him an
leave
easel.
that guy Captain Bob. I'm gonna leave that Captain
Get an
Bob.
easel back here.
I gotta have an easel, right? So I hate to be one that throws a thing, and I'm the one who brought this issue to the attention a while ago because it's just it's a horrible, horrible setup as it is, and I understand and I appreciate the fact that they're trying to fix it. We just see the design of these spots with traffic flowing this way and this way, and people trying to pull out, and then people also trying to walk. So you got cars flowing this way, and people trying to walk from these spots down, all the way down, while people are trying to back out. I think it's a nightmare, I'll be honest with you, but there is a better setup. And I drew it up, and I think, in my opinion, if you set it up so that the end came here and you had that loop.
They can't say, so.
So I don't know what, I mean, if I had an easel, I could show you.
You drive in straight and the parking is in the center, angled. So as you come up,
This way.
you turn
this way,
left
right?
and
So
you have
it's
to
very
make a
easy to
circle.
pull in.
So the traffic only goes one way
The other side, it's the other
with
way.
the angled parking in the center. And then you
Walkway
have
down.
a strip in between the 2 sets of cars and a crosswalk so people can walk down the
Crosswalk here.
center instead of walking where the cars are
But
going.
nobody walking in traffic.
So they're talking about putting a center island, so rather than having the parking lot as it is, putting a center island in the center. And then angling
And
the
having the road
parking.
as
so
a
that
ring
there is
road.
So it's a ring road.
So
Yes.
think of it like
That's
Wilson's Farm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so are you familiar with Wilson Farm? What?
Wilson Farm parking.
Oh.
But Wilson Farm also, they have it on the parking on the outside. I'm saying all the parking goes this way, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, not on the
Head in against the walkway.
It's fine, but only parking on one side.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly right. And then you got a walkway, so there's nobody walking where the traffic is. So that the traffic is flowing very
Everybody
simply
walks
around and
down
out,
the middle, that's it.
in and out,
Mhm.
right? And then you got a walkway.
Would it fit, Joe?
Calling.
Yeah, that's.
Would it fit?
It would fit as well as this would, I would think,
But
right?
I think it would depend on how many parking spaces. So I think,
I think with the angled parking spaces, don't you get a couple, don't you? fit better?
I mean, it does usually typically fit better, yeah. But the point is, I think this is non-functional. I
Yeah.
really believe if you think about
Backing
all
into
the
each other.
people backing out at the same time, people trying to use this as drive lanes in and out, and pedestrians walking from their cars.
Yes.
It's a nightmare. It's really not gonna work.
Right. And then Joe came up with this brilliant plan. I have one small thing to add. Who the heck is gonna park in those parking spots on the right
Way
of
over
the
here.
drive aisle?
Yeah.
Nobody can park there and pack out.
Right.
I think you just get rid of those.
Right.
And then you can swing around a
And you
little
can
bit more
swing that lane
to make
a
more
little
room
further
for
that,
design.
right?
I like it.
And that way.
could you actually extend the size of the entrance instead of having those 3 spaces?
Yeah, that's what you would do. The people that want to get in the lane would go all the way to the right if they want to get into the drive-through.
Right,
Yeah,
that would give more space to come out. So,
That's
with
right.
the 3 parking spaces, so the 2 hours, you just extend it out to the 3 parking
And the other one
spaces.
to
So
this
you'd almost have 3 lanes going, 2 to go into the drive-through and 1 actually coming out.
As long as you,
As long as you can fit it.
Yeah,
I didn't.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
We do need an easel. We request an easel, please.
It's the flow is very safe,
We just need a-
and it's
You know,
way easier to maneuver.
We want to work with you. I think that the big concern is, as you've seen the numbers, over the past 5 years, there've been a considerable amount of accidents. And we appreciate that you're coming to us, and we just want to make sure that what you're presenting to us and what we're collaborating is actually going to work, and that we're going to minimize and not, and for the folks at home that haven't seen the numbers, that there have been, calls for service between 16 and 25 calls per year, crashes, I'd say on an average of 4 or 5 a year. And we just want to alleviate that as much as possible.
I provided the report for the crashes. They're minor crashes within the site with no injuries. Did you get that report today from me?
Yeah. We did.
Right, but if one of those crashes happens to be a person, it's not minor anymore,
Of
right?
course, and this is why we want to do the safety
Yeah, so-
concern. So if we can work together, that would be great. This is
Absolutely.
our biggest concern is safety, so whatever we can do.
Agreed.
And I'm sorry, and just to, further that point, what this parking layout and drive aisle layout provide is it absolutely minimizes the conflict points on the site. There's literally one at this point in time where the cars would come out and have to make a decision with respect to cars entering or exiting the site, as opposed to the existing conditions where there's multiple aisles going in multiple directions. There are almost a half dozen plus potential conflict points on the site, which probably lends itself to additional accidents. When we've now simplified what the vehicle driver can do, I think that simplifies and heightens safety for everybody on the site. I mean, this design isn't not necessarily any different than what every shopping center and strip center does throughout any municipality, where the design is for the aisle to direct everyone to the building itself in a uniform fashion. We wouldn't. I think it's pretty straightforward, and like I said, simplified in terms of greatly reducing the potential conflict points.
A setup where, are you familiar with the Wilson Farm setup at all?
I am not, but I'm open to looking at anything, as well as the sketch that I wasn't able to see with the one-way circulation. I do have a concern that there's
It's
not
Pictionary
physically
work.
enough distance. I am concerned there's not enough physical distance to fit everything in there, including a sidewalk down the center. I think the numbers start to add up to the point where it would extend beyond what we've shown. But again, we're willing to look at options.
That would be great. We'd really appreciate it. So the staff.
Narrow too, because the handicap parking is over here.
Okay.
So
Just walking past.
I guess my question to him would be that if that's true, then how do you expect you're gonna have two drive aisles and two sides of pedestrians? Now you've got, pedestrians gotta get in and out of every one of these cars, right? So you're gonna have two lanes of pedestrians, one on this side, one on this side, as well as two drive aisles, an out and an in. So I don't know how you're saying, when the other way, if you angle the parking, the parking's not sticking out as far as it would if the way you're doing it perpendicular, it's gonna stick out further, right? And you're gonna eliminate anybody walking behind the vehicles. They'll all be walking in the middle.
So how about this? Why don't, if staff, if you can kind of take a picture of Barbara and
The Impemba Ring Road.
Impemba's dictionary, a Pictionary drawing, and provide that to the applicant. And then also,
And Joe's number.
also, Vice Chair Daphne had asked
If it
for you to break
fits.
down the numbers for, I think it was average vehicles between 5 and
6 and 9.
6 and 9. Those are the two things. The last thing that, that we had discussed, or the last point that I wanted to bring up, is the discussion of the crosswalk. And taking a look at the area, you know, there are people that come from the plaza where,
Bare bottom tanning.
well, Bear Bottom Tanning, as well, you know, as the folks that come from the barber shop, Mirandy's Barber Shop. So I think that there could be, you know, a workaround of, rather than just, you know, saying, going right from Bare Bottoms to your establishment, that maybe it goes from Mirandy's building to Bare Bottom, or the Bare Bottom Plaza, and then across the street, so we're at a connection point. But again, we can still look at that, and that can be more on us than you. But just want to let you know that we're thinking about all different things in ways that we can make this area safer for all of our guests and for the community.
If you don't mind, I'd like to chime in on that. And,
Sure.
And again, I don't know all the exact specific locations where you may want to introduce a crosswalk. And I can completely understand the, you know, concern for safety. But it's been our experience, you know, as an engineering firm, that adding mid-block crosswalks to any neighborhood or busy streets can actually be more unsafe than safe for both the pedestrians and the vehicle traffic, considering that it's now in a location where nobody typically stopped before. So you may be putting yourself in a situation where vehicles are surprised and come and short stop and have somebody hit them in the rear. Likewise,
I wasn't proposing that, though.
okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't necessarily a mid-block crossing because, you know, again, it's been our experience that those can be a little more dangerous than what we would anticipate it being, even if you signed it and everything else.
Yep.
So,
I understand.
good, okay, thank you.
So I think, you know, like I said, we'll get you these drawings. If you
Give us
could
those
get us
numbers, and then I think that, you know, maybe our next meeting can be, we'll pass these down to staff.
So when we get into kind of this redesign kind of phase, it's often very helpful to have a subcommittee meeting to hash out some of these items kind of before we get to the next meeting. So I would suggest that those who want to be involved in this have either a subcommittee meeting or a site visit or something to really kind of get on the ground, figure it out. So as much as we love drawing at the meetings, it's helpful to kind of figure it out and then bring some suggestions to the
That would be
meetings.
great. If you could schedule a site walk And then,
Different colors.
Member Impemba?
Directions.
Would you folks like to
told
be
him
on
he
this
should bring-
subcommittee?
Yes, I just think Joe should bring crayons next time so he can show the flow of traffic with different colors.
Color schemes.
Understood. Is there anyone else that would like to be part of that subcommittee? Okay.
We'll let
If
people
you-
know when it's.
If you
when we
could schedule the
coordinate.
site walk and we'll coordinate that and then we can move forward. Again, we appreciate you working with us and we want to work with you to make sure that the site is, you know, you're successful and everyone is safe.
All right.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience have any questions, comments, concerns? Anyone? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of, should we say November 18th so we have time for a subcommittee meeting?
I think that, are you open to, is everyone open? 18th, I think might work
Well, we
better.
can, I mean, we can also keep it here, figure it out, and then
They
if
can
we
always
continue,
continue.
We can always continue, sure.
Continue to the planning board
Unless
meeting
they
of
want to.
November 4th, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, folks, we'll be in
Thank you.
touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you. Item H is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a definitive subdivision. 4 Redmond Street, Murray Hills Incorporated is the applicant. Good evening, folks.
Hi,
Well, how are you?
Good evening.
thank you.
Would you please introduce yourselves for the record?
Sure.
Phyllis Etzel, Murray Hills. I'm here with David Romero, Commonwealth Engineering.
Thank you. Steph, do you want to start off and then we'll let the applicant?
Sure. So we met, yesterday?
Yes.
With, Phyllis and Dave Ramiro, to kind of look at this. So the questions that really, the main questions that have come out of the last couple meetings are, can we build this under subdivision control without any waivers? So, therefore, they have put together a proof plan that is a proof plan that would, like a proof plan that shows a cul-de-sac, the setbacks, et cetera. So that answered a major question, because if you can't build it, then we're not considering waivers. Just if you can build it, then we kind of back up from there. So we will show that in a minute. And then the second thing we talked about was really so look at the proof plan waivers, but also look at the drainage plan, kind of how they're looking at the site, where this site sits in relation to the rest of the neighborhood, and how creating this roadway and these building lots will not negatively impact any of the neighbors from a drainage perspective. So that's what the two things we've asked for the applicant to tell us about this evening, so we can understand a little bit more. And Liz will show you what the proof plan looks like. They're still in front of conservation. We're not in a position to make a decision this evening, but really want to talk about those two specific, on those two specific topics.
I guess you'll have to go first.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so that's the proof plan. Can you zoom in?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to,
Okay.
do you want to drive?
No, no.
No.
go ahead.
Oh, you drive.
I'll let you take care of that.
All right,
So we did, as you requested, we did put together a plan that requires no waivers. We show sidewalks on both sides, 26 feet of pavement, a full right-of-way, 100 feet in diameter, and a full circle pavement, which is 80 feet, which actually we are proposing to do anyway. So again, this right here shows that, can we build it? Yes, we can build it. Whether or not it's desirable, what you see as a result of this is that we're taking up the whole 40-foot width of the roadway, and we'd be filling more wetlands, and it'd be over 5,000 feet of wetlands that would be disturbed by doing this. And also with the sidewalk all the way around, we'd be increasing impervious surface, and we'd be pushing, again, the circle out beyond what it is now we're proposing. And I think the advantage to what we're proposing is that we're still giving you the full circle turnaround, which is, I think, which is what the intent is, to be able to provide safe access and egress for emergency vehicles and for all vehicles to make the turnaround. Right now, it's a dead end and with no real turnaround at all. Although technically there is a turnaround, this gives you a real turnaround, safe for all vehicles, and including the emergency vehicles. So, again, this proves that we can build it, but again, I think it's an advantage to go back to what we are actually proposing.
Can I ask a question? So if this, you said it was 5,000 feet of wetlands that are displaced in this plan?
This wouldn't be over 5,000 square feet.
So
Yeah.
so you would have to replicate that somewhere?
Yeah.
Where is it replicated?
We'd replicate it in the same areas that we had initially proposed to do it, but we'd have to increase that number to do that.
Is it shown on here?
I don't show it on this plan here, no.
So when we met yesterday, we did ask for, and Dave Romero put together the numbers. If they had to replicate those wetlands, would you still have the upland and all the required zoning compliance? And they can meet those numbers with this plan and still have a compliant lots.
So it's replicated still on the same site?
It's
It is.
between these two properties, yeah.
Between the two properties,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's mostly on the bottom lot, the number 4. We do have a replication area shown, so we'd have to expand that, but we still have enough upland to do that on this lot.
We were very much on the, like, it was asked, why do we have to do a proof plan? But this site is so close that it's just really hard to see if this could be done, and that was the real, and I know members really wanted the exercise. But it was, can you do this under, and so I think that it was an exercise that was super important for us to be able to move forward.
Do we have printed plans?
I can,
What was that?
do you have printed?
Oh, I'm
printed
sorry,
plans
I
of the
would've-
proof plan? No, I have printed subdivision, full subdivision plans.
I would have provided that, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll see what I can do. But keep going.
In the meantime, when we're looking at that, I don't know if it would be helpful to have the applicants talk about the drainage
Please.
and grading
Yes.
aspect of the project.
And when we talk about that, just because one of my concerns is neighbors and whether or not the water's going to flow. So can you explain to us?
Yeah, sure.
Which neighbors are lower elevation? Where's it going to flow?
Okay.
Thank you.
So we did prepare some sketches, and we used the town topography maps that the town has. Very nice maps, by the way, and it shows a lot of good information. So, can you bring that, the first one, of the existing, please?
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah, that's it. Good. Can you zoom in on? Thanks. Yeah, so, again, that's the town topo maps, and what you see there is what's currently on site. You can see that the Redmond Street goes about 300 feet into the right-of-way, and what you have right now is a, actually, I have a, can I use that laser? The laser on it?
I don't know. We can try.
Let's try.
Well, as you're getting ready, Liz, do you want to point out where the two lots are on what
Yes,
we're talking about?
these are, okay, so
There it is. So there's number 4, and that's lot number 5. Can you see that laser pointer? If you can see that red.
Yep. So
So there's Redmond, and there's the end right there, and there's a little T turnaround right there. And that is in an easement, by the way, for a turnaround.
The driveway easement.
Yeah, it's actually in a driveway that's used as an easement for a turnaround. So that's what we have right now. That's the current layout. If you go to the proposed. yeah. No, I'm sorry, go back to that Yes, thank you. So again, in that context of the town mapping, you can see that is the circle that we're proposing. There's the existing turnaround there. Proposing about 250 feet, linear feet from the end to our end, but we are providing a full circle. And there's the two lots, there's number 4 and number 5. So providing safe access and egress to the lots, safer access and egress to the road for all traffic and particularly emergency vehicles. So that's the full circle there. And again, that's what we're proposing right now. That's what our plan set shows. Okay, if you can do the next one then, please. That's with the wetlands on it. All right, so now that you've seen the road, now you can see this green is the wetland. So we are crossing wetlands right through here. That's a wetland that we have to cross to be able to build this road. And also in the middle of the circle, that little bit there. So all of this, we're filling not quite 5,000 square feet, less than 5,000 square feet of wetland to do it, which is why we want to minimize as much as possible this construction of this road. That's why we're asking for relief for only 18 feet width coming up here, and also for the retaining walls to keep that nice and narrow. So again, minimizing as we can the impact. At the same time, providing good access, almost town standards access. The circle's town standard, the road maybe a little bit less so, but still minimizing, but we're still getting, I think, what we need. And as far as the drainage goes, let me show you the rest of the site. The next one would be the 4th one. All right, so now we've added some, again, the town topo, again, some arrows and some elevations. So what this shows is that these elevations are real elevations. There's a 161 up here, a 183 here, 155, 157. So this is all the neighborhoods above us. There's Ainsworth, there's Raymond, Redmond itself, and even Bedford Street are all above us. So we're not draining to anybody. We're draining to the wetlands. There's a large wetland system out here where the 133 is and the arrows are. There's a big stream system that exists out there, all in the wetland system. And those streams actually feed Sandy Brook, which is actually to the south, down on the site. Yeah. And so we really don't have any houses that are below us. We're not draining to any houses. We really wouldn't have no impact to these houses below us, around us and above us here on Raymond. Again, Ainsworth or Redmond or Bedford Street, we're all below that.
What's the elevation at Fairfax?
I don't know where that
Fairfax
is.
I don't know, it's quite a distance.
I don't know where that is.
I'm trying to figure out what's in between you and Fairfax. I think it's just wetlands.
Yeah, this is all wetlands right here, this whole area with that 133, all large, open wetland area.
And then Fairfax is on the other side of that.
I think so, it's way to the,
Is it
it's way to the west there, to the left on the plan, I think, isn't it?
Does Fairfax ever flood?
No, it's way on another map. It's so far away.
And then it goes up. So it starts off low and then it rises.
It's on the other side of the
Beginning of
wetlands.
Fairfax? I'm just curious to know.
See it? Fairfax is over here on the other side of the
Some of the homes
wetlands.
on Fairfax, it's my understanding that they do need flood insurance,
Okay.
on some of the homes on Fairfax. So I
The
guess
first few.
Fairfax is about 800 to 1,000 feet away.
On the other side of the wetlands
Right, I guess.
what's the elevation?
and the Sandy Brook.
The wetlands.
I mean, it's just not even close.
Well, I guess my question would be if they're draining in there, is it going to push more water over to Fairfax?
So what we,
Fairfax is already flooding.
if I can answer that, then, so what we're required to do is mitigate for what we're doing here, for this roadway, all along the pavement and this here too, as well as the roofs for the houses. And we've done that, in that we provide infiltration on site, which is probably the best way and the optimal way to take care of your own stormwater. So we're collecting the runoff on site here, and we're basically putting it back into the ground, which is where it would go now. It rains on the ground, it goes into the ground. We're putting it back, we're collecting it in the system, putting it back into the ground. So we're not really affecting that at all. Plus, the roofs will be the same way. They'll have their own dry wells. This roof here, number 4 and number 5, will have their own dry wells. And it's also going to be treated. We have water qualities chamber that will take the water, help clean it, the catch basins help clean it, and then into the ground and slowly dissipate into the ground. We're required to be 2 feet above it, and we are. We're 2 feet above the groundwater. That's the stormwater requirement.
So the basements are 2 feet above the groundwater?
I'm talking about the infiltration system. So the basements themselves, I've talked to Mr. Murray, and he said we are going to put the basement at 2 feet above any groundwater that we have data on. We'll do the same thing. So we really don't anticipate any problems. Again, this is a standard design for mitigation. We size it to the 100-year storm. We've done for any subdivision or any site plan. We do the same thing. So, and that's what we have here.
How about
We've
the
mitigated
extension of the
runoff.
road? Isn't that going to give you increased water?
What's that?
The extension of the road, 140 feet?
Yeah, and that's why we're collecting it, and we call it detention, so we slow it down in our chambers, and it slowly goes into the ground. That's the intent of that. So we do reduce the runoff by using that detention
So the
system.
theory is that they're not adding any more water.
Right.
The water is still the water. So it would just run faster off a roadway into the, they're gonna catch that and let it infiltrate slowly like it naturally would.
Right.
Adding water, but you aren't
Yeah.
displacing.
You're displacing, but the displacing, all it does is really, instead of it seeping through the earth where you've now put the road, they're catching that, capturing it and letting it just seep gradually like it would.
And
as if
the
it was-
houses.
Yeah, but it's the same amount of water.
The houses too, right.
Catching
So we try to mimic what's going on, as you said. We were trying to mimic the water going into the ground. We just do that by collecting it and putting it back into the ground, which is what it does now.
Yeah, Chair,
Displacing.
let me just comment on, this was what I mentioned when, this starts at Terry Avenue. At the end of Terry Avenue, drops off and it goes down, flows down through this area and underneath Fairfax and then into the well field. So this, but you can, not Fairfax, under Bedford Street.
Okay.
But you can go down in there and you can stand and you can see Fairfax over there and the wetlands between you.
Right.
And
And I guess what
Fairfax.
I'm concerned about is with two large houses with
Sure,
big basements
right.
and the street and
Yeah,
the circle,
of course.
that some of that displaced water is going to flow down to Fairfax and make a situation for people at the beginning of Fairfax who already have problems with water, it might make their problems worse. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
I'm not an
okay.
engineer.
No, it's a
This is
legitimate
what I'm
concern.
asking.
The detention basins are built correctly, though, it should slow it down enough.
So the theory years ago, they would just fill that land.
Yeah.
And it would truly displace the water and it would have to go somewhere. Now, what they do is they capture that water. It gets displaced. They capture it and just allow it to seep gradually like it naturally would if you didn't put a structure there. So I guess that's the theory, as long as it's working properly.
I think so. I did want to make a comment earlier, and David started, but last week we talked a lot about stormwater drainage and flooding of basements. And I think at that point, I don't know, but I think inadvertently, the impression might have been given that we were talking about Mr. Murray's properties, Bob Murray's properties. And so I did want to make a comment that, and let you know, which you probably already do, most of you. He recently finished 3 Lexington Street subdivision, that's 3 lots. We'll be coming in to close it, no complaints. A few years ago, Shayla Drive, 3 lots off Maryvale, no complaints. Oak Ridge Townhouses off Cambridge Street, no complaints. 2 houses on Scott Avenue, no complaints. Michael Drive off Westwood Street, 21 houses, no complaints. And there was wetlands down there, and we actually gave the Commission a conservation restriction. That was, I believe it's the headwaters to the Ipswich River. And he's building in other towns. You have a large development, 147 townhouses in Woburn, 5 roads, detention ponds, replication areas, walls. Every week, a wetland person, a wetland scientist, inspects and sends a report to the Conservation Commission with pictures, 8 or 9-page report with pictures, good reports. I can send you a copy. Oh, no, what I'm trying to say is, I think that, and what I want to say also is David designed those projects. Commonwealth designed those projects. If he says something will work, from past experience, we believe it will work.
I'm not questioning the professionalism of your company, not at all. I just want to be very careful because a lot of Burlington is very low. A lot of Burlington residents have problems with flooding. And it's getting worse because and not because of the buildings you're building, but because of climate change. We're having a lot of problems. And we, in years past, things were built where they shouldn't have been built. And so that
That's
exacerbates
correct.
the problem.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be really careful because land is so scarce in Burlington that developers, all developers, not just you, are building on every little scrap of land that can be found. And oftentimes that land is wet and the water goes somewhere. And as a homeowner, I worry about that. I worry about somebody building something near me bigger, like somebody knocking down the little house next to me and building something really big, and I know that water's gonna go somewhere. Where's it gonna go? It's gonna go into my yard because I'm lower. And so I just wanna make sure that we're protecting the houses around this development from the flow of water.
And I
This is
think-
not my area of expertise, so I'm not pretending to know how this works. I'm expressing the concern because I don't wanna see people in lower areas, and the only place I can think of would probably be Fairfax. I don't want to see them harmed.
Well, as, I don't even know how far away it is, it's hundreds of feet away, beyond the wetlands even, but if it's a single-family house and there is no treatment, well, then perhaps you should be concerned. But my point is that we have a number of developments we have built, and with wetland issues, they've been designed by the engineer, and the stormwater has been treated and taken care of, and we have had no problems. Therefore, I think it's a good indication that they've been designed properly, and this one is being designed properly, as David is trying to explain to you. And
Please
it's,
understand.
you know,
it has
it's a
nothing to
matter
do-
of trust.
But we've had problems with General Walker Estates was supposedly designed properly and that people are getting water. And we assured them that that wasn't gonna happen, and it did.
And
now
that's,
that
I
it's
think,
done, there's nothing that
hopefully
was-
we're doing that.
Pardon me?
Hopefully, we're doing that. And it's been reviewed by
understand, but
engineering.
In
Also.
that, I'm just holding that up as an example. I'm not saying that you're gonna be anything like the General Walker Estates project. I do not expect that. But from what we understand, that has been built according to the plan. And yet the neighbors are having problems.
Where's that?
General Walker Estates, it's sort of
I don't even know where,
behind Gloria
but
Circle.
that's not our development, that's someone else's, and
I'm not,
if it's not being built properly, you should do something about
well,
it,
that's
not
my point.
penalize
is from what
us.
we're being told, I'm not penalizing you. From what I understand, it was built the way it was supposed to be built, and we were assured that it would not cause problems for the neighbors with water, and something went wrong.
Fairfax is new.
I would focus back to this project.
I think so
Yes,
too.
but I'm just, this is why I have the concern, that's all I'm saying. I want to protect the neighbors.
I
That's all.
understand, and I think we all share the same concern. You know, they have shown us their plan. At some point, we do have to trust that they're gonna do the job that they said that they're gonna do, and, you know, from her history, you know, and the company's history, I think that, you know, they have demonstrated that they've done a quality project, so I'm hoping, you know, that nothing changes and that still remains the same. I think, you know, we did ask for proof plan, they have shown that to us. The last thing that we did ask them is to provide us a list of waivers, so I think that, you know, let's go through that, because this is not, we don't have a decision today. We still have to go in front of conservation, so let's go through the waiver list. And then if there's any questions or concerns, we can go through that, talk about public, and then.
all the waivers?
This is the full list of waivers, is
Because
that
there used to
correct?
be more, I think, right? No? Okay.
No.
I thought there were more.
If I may just, in Barbara's defense, she's just doing due diligence.
I agree, and
which
I,
is what it's supposed to
I
do.
agree, but there's nothing more that we can say or do
No, that's
in
right,
that respect.
but-
The problem is that if it gets built and there's an impact on the neighbors like there has been over in Gloria Circle, there's nothing that can be done then.
It's gonna be your fault.
Both situations are situations where there are water problems and we're being assured that those water problems will not impact the neighbors. And in one situation, pardon me?
I still think you're comparing apples to oranges.
In terms of the developer, yes, because the General Walker Estates developer was a huge problem. So, yes, there's no comparison.
I don't think that we
between
need to
those
go
two.
down that road, because I think
Um,
we get ourselves in trouble here.
Excuse me,
Please.
Barbara, is there anything, do you have a question? Or is there anything that you
I'm
would like to
expressing a
know
concern, that's
further?
all.
No? No?
I'm only expressing a concern.
Okay, okay. About Fairfax Street? Is
About-
that your concern?
About displaced water going somewhere.
Well, I think David just showed you where the water would flow. So I'm just trying to find out what your concern is so that we can respond to it. I mean, if it's Fairfax Street, I don't know. If you could tell me.
Okay. Again, I think that
We can go over the waivers. I expressed my concern. I have to think about it and.
let's go through
Okay.
the waivers.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question about, so this is a water system that catches water. Is there any way that water can be put into the storm drain and just taken away?
What, can you explain that to me? I'm not sure what you're asking me.
So instead of capturing the water
Mhm.
and then letting it infiltrate,
Right.
is there any way that displaced water can be captured and put into a storm drain?
I don't know if conservation will let.
Yeah, well, we're not allowed to do that anymore. That's what everybody was doing, and I think that's why you have problems now. The storm drains can't handle all this extra runoff that's happened.
Right, in other words,
Yeah.
The street, the roadway, you certainly can, because I heard someone say that
Our-
you're just building out the roadway,
Right.
that certainly can go in a storm drain.
Well, we're putting that into an infiltration system, so we're taking care of our runoff on site. We can't put it into the town storm drain. That would be that would overtax
Okay, so
that
the
system.
town's not allowing additional water in the storm?
No towns, no, it's been like that for a long time now, yeah.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe David or Joe, that the town storm drains end up into the wetlands. The reason we have all the flooding is because way back when, people started filling wetlands. There's no place for the storm drains to dump anymore.
Yeah, I think what happened in the past is people did just that. They just put water into the storm drains, and they kept adding and adding and adding, and the storm drains are completely, can't handle the flows now.
Well, the storm drains don't necessarily go into, the storm drains.
That's the only place they
Go into the brook system.
Oh, the brooks, right.
Which would carry it out into the,
You are correct, I am.
In some situations, they go a lot of different places, and that's.
Right.
But even the better way to do it is to make it go in slower wherever it goes.
Well, certainly it would. If you're gonna let it infiltrate the wetlands, if you're gonna bring it to ultimately to a stream or a river,
Well,
you're better
ultimately-
off bringing it there. than you would-
Ultimately, it goes to the same place, and it goes into the wetlands, into the ground, and it ends up in the same place that it would anyway, but it slows it down instead of all at once, all this water coming in.
Do you know how much water approximately is going to get displaced? Do we have any idea, Mike?
I do have calculations that show all the volumes of water that this has been designed for. I don't have that in front of me.
We don't
but
need it tonight, you can bring it
It's
next
in
time,
cubic-
because
it's
I
in
want to move
cubic
on to
feet.
waivers.
Yeah, okay.
Let's move on to waivers, and if you can bring that next time, that would be great. The
How much?
approximately how much water is being displaced.
Okay, I can show you what the volumes of water are, I guess, if that's what you want.
I'd just be interested in learning that.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have this waiver list. Does anyone have any questions, or do you want to go through each one?
Just a question on one.
Sure.
It was the one on sidewalks, which I thought was interesting. The one on sidewalks says, it's unlikely Redmond would be extended to the unimproved Raymond Road, therefore a sidewalk may be waived since it's gonna be a dead end. Street surveying the 5 houses, and the sidewalks were waived for the previous 3 houses. So I don't know who's on the board back when they waived for the previous 3 houses, but was the idea there that it was waived because that would be a dead end and there wouldn't be any more
Probably because
houses
of
on Raymond
wetlands.
Road?
Very
So-
possibly, I don't know, do you?
Probably to reduce the wetlands.
Yeah.
I mean, to reduce the wetland impact, I would imagine.
I can't remember.
Yeah, all right. I'm just asking. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So,
Actually, I have a question about the same waiver, though.
We did that all over.
It's, I'm focusing on the words, is unlikely Raymond Street would be extended. Is there some way we can just
dissolve it.
end it? Like, it can't be? Let's just
Yes,
end
you've
it
asked that
now?
question. So I wanted to say this waiver list was prepared by the applicant.
Oh, okay.
We received it yesterday when we were talking, so
Oh,
we're
okay.
still looking at it too. So what didn't come, it wasn't from
Okay.
us.
So that's my question.
And that
about
was part of
one.
the discussion about just the paper street, and, because when we did the last house on Redmond, it was, this is the last house.
Right.
This is, you know, and
Yeah,
a lot
because
of
of
the
the
findings
wetlands,
you made were,
right.
this is the last house, so.
Yeah.
I have no idea the first couple houses on Redmond, but in terms of that last one, I can say that I believe the conversation was, well, this is the last one, so.
Right,
And it's
but it's
one.
always the last one. So how do we know this is the last one?
So would the applicant
You know, this is the last one because these are the last 2 lots.
But that's what we were talking
There is no other land beyond these 2. And I already spoke with Mr. Murray about abandoning the remainder. And he, you know, if you can, Krista and I had talked about it, he has no use for it. It's certainly something that could be done. He could even deed it to the town, and then the town could do it. It just, he really doesn't.
Sure.
Why are there no lots because it's wet? Why are there no more lots because it's wet?
Because it ends.
Just
what?
end.
It just ends.
You run into
And it meets Raymond Road. These are the last 2 lots. Well, actually, beside number 4, there's a small lot at the end of Redmond that belongs to the Conservation Commission. And then there's Raymond Road, so it's the end of it anyway.
Ask one more question on
Sure.
the waiver on the section 6.2.16, topography beyond 300 feet beyond the property line. Am I understanding this correctly, just that you're asking to not have to show the buildings on the adjoining lots on your plans? Is that correct?
Yes,
Oh, that's the
I just wanna make sure I was
300
understanding.
feet?
Pardon?
yes.
Is that the 300 feet?
Yes. Yes, so it's
Yeah.
just that you're requesting to not show those
On,
buildings on your
our
plan?
plan,
Okay,
right.
I just want to make sure I understood it, thank you. Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I have a question on, with the pavement. I understand there was some concern about proposing the road at 18, and was somebody else looking for 20?
The fire department and the police would like 20. That's something we could do.
Okay, you could do
If
that?
you decided not to grant the 18 and said you wanted 20, we would be, of course, we could do it.
What's the impact for you if you don't do
It would increase our disturbance of wetland,
Understood.
but we would have to do it, I
If another
guess.
town department's looking for it.
I understand. Anyone else? And then cul-de-sac, you're building the cul-de-sac, so what are
Yeah.
you looking to waive in the cul-de-sac?
We're looking to waive the right-of-way. We're actually building a paved turnaround because we are paving the paper street
Okay, yep.
and then paving a circular pavement as easements on both lots. So it, you know, in actuality, it is a paved cul-de-sac,
But it's
but
not in the right-of-way.
it's not, it doesn't have the right-of-way, and I guess my other point is, if we were to build the right-of-way, that would be, you know, it looks good on paper. It doesn't look like a lot of disturbance on paper. But when you are gonna build the right-of-way, then you have to excavate all of that, and you are disturbing a lot more land. And we would like to prevent
So you,
But you're
that if
building the
possible.
cul-de-sac.
Are you actually?
Where,
Right, but we're not building a sidewalk or a grass strip or anything to have
Right.
to extend
we're
beyond
looking to
that.
have the sidewalk and the grass
Going
strip
to the
and
edge
all
of the pavement, and then we would stop it there, yeah.
You're
you're building-
building the cul-de-sac with easements
Yes,
instead of
And-
right-of-way, which
right.
I'm still kind of thinking about. But how that would change would be the 25-foot setback from the right-of-way for the house construction? Is
It
really
would
that-
affect, it would affect the lots, the setbacks on the lots, if we did it
Yeah.
that way. That's what our proof plan shows, the way it plans with no waiver. It does show that it would affect the setbacks, and it wouldn't preclude building a house on it, but it would just make the lots probably more narrow. And again, having to build out to the right-of-way, because you would have to build that out, even if it's just grass, you still have to build it out to the town
So
standard.
could you still build a house if you had to build out to town standard and have the 25-foot setback?
Yeah,
It just wouldn't be that big then.
Yeah, it's just
right.
push it.
Yeah.
Just gonna push it.
You're just making it tighter.
So how close would you say the proposed house would be to the edge of the constructed?
About 21 feet,
So it'd be 4 feet short,
about 4 feet short as if you did it the other way, yeah.
but it wouldn't be 4 feet short, but, right.
Yeah, no, I
From
know.
the right away,
I know what you're
but
saying.
from the
yeah.
actual built house, right?
And that would be on the lower lot. The upper lot really wouldn't be that affected.
Does any other members of the board have any questions, comments, concerns?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Is there anyone, this is a public hearing, does anyone from the public have any comments on this item?
Yes, actually, I do have a couple of questions, if I may.
If you please introduce yourself for the record.
Yeah, Lynn Unsworth, and we're the last house on Raymond Road.
Good evening, Mrs. Unsworth.
And I appreciate those of you who are concerned about water, since that is an issue that we have here, and we're pretty high elevation, so. But I did have one question. Did I hear that over 5,000 square feet of fill to put in the circle?
No.
No, I think it was, it's 5,000 if, it's the wetlands.
It's an area, yeah.
Disturbance.
It's 5,000 square feet of wetland that were,
Okay, so there's gonna be no fill put in those areas?
there will be fill to construct the road, yes, there will be.
But they'll have to
And that's,
recreate
that
that.
was approved by the DEP?
Well, we're in the process of getting approval from conservation right now.
So if it's under 5,000 square feet of disturbance, it's regulated by the conservation. If it's over 5,000, they go in front of the DEP.
Well,
Is that
that's
correct?
not exactly right. What we do is, if we go over 5,000 square feet, we have to get a water quality certification, which is issued by DEP. But that normally comes after a project's already been approved. It's like another step. And they just give you more parameters and more control to meet. But it's just another more paperwork for DEP. It doesn't stop you from the building, or it doesn't stop your approvals either.
Okay.
It's just another level of,
Yeah.
Just curious, Ms. Unsworth, do you have like a sub pump or any type of, water prevention for your basement at this time?
We do not, and like I said, we're fairly high, and I think I just saw on the paperwork that we're like at 161 something elevation. And when we have heavy rains, our basement, you can literally see the percolation of the water from the ground up. So I mean, it gets pretty wet out there. And my concern is obviously if we're putting in roadway, obviously, where is the water gonna go? It has nowhere to permeate into the ground anymore.
Right, the proponent had explained about a drainage system that they feel,
Yeah, I heard that.
that they feel would satisfy, any concerns.
Right.
So, keep in mind, this is still a work in progress. They're going to go in front of conservation, they're going to come back to us, we're going to have another discussion, and hopefully, we'll set your mind at ease.
And just one other thing before I leave. So the street beside Redmond is McSweeney Way.
Right.
And I think those neighbors should be notified of these meetings as well.
They have been.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. And again, I appreciate you guys looking out for us.
You're welcome. Mrs. Did you have a question for Ms. Unsworth?
No, I had
Oh,
a
okay.
question for the.
Thank you, Ms.
applicant.
Unsworth.
Another question for the applicant. Is the last waiver that you're looking for is looping the water main? Can you,
So we do have a water main proposing coming off of Bedford. Actually, we're extending the one that's there now in Redmond, and we're extending it out to the end, and we have nowhere to continue the loop where, so we're gonna put a hydrant at the end, and that's gonna be the end of it, so,
and DPW is all okay
Yeah.
with that, or engineer?
yeah.
So it's not looped now,
It's not looped now, no.
just extending.
We're extending it and putting the hydrant in, yeah. They did comment on the location of the hydrant, just so it wouldn't get plowed under by snow, so we're gonna move it to where they asked, and that's about
Never
it.
at the end of the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, it would be impractical to loop it onto
It's impossible.
Raymond Road? I'm not, I can't picture it in my
I
head.
don't know if there's a water, there might be a water line. I know there's a sewer line out there. I'm not sure if there's a water line out in Raymond.
There's so, there is none. It doesn't show.
Yeah, I don't think there is water out there. It's just
Can you
sewer.
take a look at that
I
for
will,
next meeting?
yeah,
Because
sure.
it's only a matter of, you know.
I
Yeah,
X
know.
amount of feet
Yeah,
it might
you're
be.
right. You're right, yeah, sure.
For staff, could I get a copy of the decision for the last house that we approved on Redmond? Because I want to look and see what we had in there then.
If
You
I
could
could
circulate that to us all.
Yeah,
Okay,
might as
great.
well, all of us
Thank
would be
you.
good.
Was there anyone else in the audience that had a question, comment, or concern? Liz, do you see anyone?
I don't see anybody having their hand up. I don't see anybody in the chat.
May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of November 4th, 2021. And yes, I think this is further, the planning board agreed to mutually extend the statutory deadline to file the decision, subdivision Form S, to December 8th, 2021, as endorsed by the applicant on October 21, 2021.
Second.
That's a 21.
So with
Okay,
that,
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Kristen wants to say something.
I just want to ask Phyllis if she has a Form S, if you have a signed Form S to mutually extend.
For the extension to the statutory, I'm gonna have to ask Mr. Murray.
Okay, so.
So
we
we're
don't have
extended
the
to
Form
the
S? So just continue it until the next meeting.
November 4th meeting,
Okay,
and he's gonna have to make a decision.
The current decision deadline is November 10th. So we, 4th, but we have to,
so I will retract my motion, and now I will ask to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting November 4th, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So November 4th, they'll be coming back just with the form? Just with the Form
well, I
S.
mean, we've continued, as long as we have the signed Form S. We don't, since we don't have it signed yet, I don't want to say we mutually extended it when we didn't.
Right.
Because we need to mutually
No,
have it signed.
I
so-
understand, I just don't want to have to, I don't want to come back on November 4th, rehash the wheel. They have some homework to do, they're going to go in front of conservation.
Oh, yeah,
You know, I'd like to regroup on December 8th and really put this together.
As long as I have it in hand.
Okay.
We can do it by ourselves.
So,
I just need it in hand.
when we come back on November 4th, I think a couple of questions were asked, and David's going to check on the water, if there's a water connection possible on Raymond.
Check on I'll check on Fairfax, too, the elevations.
Check on
I don't know what
Fairfax.
they are.
That's a ways to go.
Let's just look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And was there anything else that I didn't?
The volume of water,
Volume of water, sure.
What?
Sure.
the volume of water that's being.
Volume of
disposed.
water.
Mhm.
Wait a minute, volume of water for, what volume? The volume that you're putting into the infiltrator, or?
I can give them that, yeah.
Oh, you're not talking about for the loop.
Fairfax.
Yeah.
McSweeney is in between. this
okay.
and Fairfax.
Any other questions? Were there any questions on the waivers, or that we should address more fully?
You said you're gonna look at 20 feet instead of 18 for the road?
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yes.
think we can.
We've already agreed that if you want 20,
Fine.
Okay.
Can you
can
also,
have it.
next time, tell us the elevations at McSweeney Way?
McSweeney Way.
What? I'm sorry, I
Elevations
didn't
for
hear.
McSweeney Way.
Yeah,
The
we'll
elevations
look
for
at that.
McSweeney Way.
Sure.
McSweeney is actually between this and Fairfax, I think.
Yeah, there's not much.
That's on the,
Yeah, but there's a couple,
No, I know.
like two, maybe?
One.
One, just one? Okay.
We never get that.
I think you have them right there.
Did everyone have an opportunity to review the minutes for September 16th meeting?
Sure.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the meetings for the September 16th, 2021 meeting. The meeting minutes.
Yeah, those are the ones.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
502, 502.
5:02.
You're welcome. So we do have a couple updates that I'm going to hand the floor over to Kristen for. We have a Economic Development Committee update.
That's for you and Mike.
It's for me and Mike. Mike, why don't you take the floor? I've been doing a lot.
We don't really have any update.
Well, we have our pocket, we have the.
Oh, the Pocket Park we've talked about
yeah,
on
we talked
Saturday.
About that, and then we talked
And then the
about-
meeting on Tuesday, everyone was
Yep,
invited
we know
to.
about that.
And November 2nd is the public forum.
Yep,
The-
that sums it up.
The beer garden?
12 to 6 Saturday.
6 on
Is
Saturday.
it true that the beer's free?
No.
No?
Madam Chair is purchasing.
Oh.
With member Espejo's credit card.
Oh.
But the park is going to stay there until April, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yes, that is the idea.
There's a mural up too, I saw. that just
Oh, it's
painted.
done?
There's a little thingy.
It's a flower, it's our flower.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
okay.
evolving.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Evolving.
Yes, it's evolving.
What about our Transportation Committee? Do we have any comments from?
The only thing that I am aware of is that just recently, Selectman Priest put out an email trying to get a meeting together for, I think, 27th. It hasn't been formalized yet.
Great. Zoning amendments.
Just on the transportation, there was another article in the newspaper about, you know, if you're a senior citizen, it costs you, you can call the senior center, costs you $1. If it's more than X minute, 10 or 15 minutes,
This is in
then
Burlington, right?
you start paying after that, but the first 10 minutes are for $1.
Right, right.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
So it's available, and it says, you know, for medical appointments, and I think now they'll even go out of town.
I think so.
Yeah.
Zoning amendments, I know that there's going to be 2 articles forthcoming from the ZBRC subcommittee signs for proposing a new sign district for basically town center overlay, and also proposing some new definitions. It's fairly lengthy. I think it's,
Can you get us a copy?
yeah,
Yes.
by, yeah, I
Next
think
Tuesday?
Sally's gonna put it, yeah, no, Sally's.
Great.
Yeah, I'll get you a copy.
Tuesday is the deadline.
I'll give you a copy.
Other zoning amendments, I've been working with Melissa Tintaklis on modernizing retail uses, and pretty much it was, there's, you know, what's the big plan for retail in general? That's still, what's the big plan? But the one thing that we've been talking to retail areas is, what's the one use that you're having a lot of trouble with? And it's, the main thing is those experiential type of uses, the virtual reality, the escape room, they all fall under billiards and arcades and all these like giant skating. So is there a way to really define that experience, kind of the experience educational? I mean, it just kind of even like golf simulation, other stuff. I know we did Golf X, but that was kind of like kind of loopholing it in there. So to just make it a little bit more clear.
Can't call it fun.
Fun.
Do not use the
No,
word
fun's
fun.
illegal, Mike.
Experiential uses.
Educational and
experience.
experiential.
Yeah, so we're looking to define that. And the other thing, she's been working with town council on outdoor seating regulations. So we'll be seeing both of those at the first meeting in November. Right? Yeah, because I just advertised them last week. Yeah, so those two will come in. I'm just gonna run down the list, try to get you out quick. Airbnb, we sent you the letter that we sent to the Board of Selectmen. They will be acting on it at their next meeting. Master plan update, we've been working with Emily Innes to put all the pieces back together. she should have natural resources and cultural resources done shortly. She was hoping to get us a draft by the end of this week. And anyway, we've been kind of sending her different things and she's charting them out, so we still are looking. We told her kind of by end of the year, we're hoping to get them by town meeting.
Great.
They're moving along, right along.
Anyone have any questions? I have one quick comment.
Sure.
That I went into the mall for the first time in a really long time and saw the beautiful new extension. And shout out to Carol Perna. Carol, we got that entrance out on the Sears side to the parking lot. It looks great.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Great. May I have a motion?
Make a comment about the town being in the top 18 in the country.
They call it a small city.
Yeah, but even though small city was just, towns too.
Okay.
Yes, yes, that was great.
Kudos to us.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a great evening, folks. Did it before 10.